Hello, hello. Just popping on because in 9 minutes court should start, so I figured we'd continue our stream watching Alex testify. I am eating breakfast, so y'all can eat breakfast with me. I'm very confused. Oh, never mind. Hey, Roll Tide. Oh, no, not again. That sucks. Well, at least you can stay for a little bit, hopefully. I got really confused because I got a message. I think it was like, oh, you just got like $300 in your bank. How did that happen? But it was my state tax return. It's like, oh no, I didn't even know I was getting that. I forgot about it. All right, let me pull this bad boy up. Site. I guess people are looking at. Oh, and then it cuts off. I know, isn't it?
That the Bozell property was 100%.
I love when that happened.
Property was split, and then he offered this
Like
self-serving
last night.
testimony
Oh,
that
man,
she
that
always
sucks.
did what I said, and she would sign anything. But to me, that actually establishes a possible motive, because if she was growingly concerned about his drug use, which we know she was looking at in the month prior to that.
I guess Maggie. Somebody posted on Facebook. It was so funny. It was like,
and if his financial troubles were going, him wanting complete control of those assets, which he says he had significant equity in, could be part of the motive. The second thing, Jesse, is he testified in his own defense that he
Alex Murdaugh's test today. Mags and Pawpaw had been talking to Roro, Stanky Leg, Lil Jimmy, and Fathead, who heard about Pills from Handsome and Dibble Dabble, who from Bus Bus, and M, who threatened to call the Popo on the Talkie Talkie.
Maybe he was paranoid of his wife.
There were so many nicknames.
Control of those assets. I actually think
I was cracking. That was
better
exactly
after seeing him testify than it did before he testified.
Such an interesting take. I actually thought that too. The minute he said that he was having this paranoia, I thought it was only a matter of time before the prosecutors were like, okay, so were you paranoid enough to think that your wife and son were out to get you? That is possibly something that will be explored. Now, I do want to go back a little bit to when Murdaugh talked more about his finances and the alleged financial crimes, but this time being questioned by Creighton Waters, the prosecutor.
Was I aware that y'all had started an investigation into what I did in the hospital prior to the June 7th?
Yes.
I believe that to be correct.
All right.
And if it wasn't before that, it was shortly after it.
You testified that you've had a pill addiction
brother taking several guns out of the house the day before it was searched. No way. I didn't see that. I actually haven't. So the night of the murder?
So when did you start stealing money from clients?
Hey, Cheryl.
How long
did it come out like last night? I fell asleep so early last night.
I'm not sure when the first time I did that is.
You don't know?
No, sir.
Well,
sure.
I don't know. I haven't woken up yet.
I mean, you got to understand, I've been in rehab and
still drinking my Red Bull and eating my breakfast.
I don't have access, you know.
They're going to get there soon, I promise. Hey, Mark.
The media, so I haven't had a lot of phone access. I haven't had a lot of access.
Wow.
So
yeah, I know they searched the house on the 8th.
I cannot tell you the exact time.
I wouldn't shock me, though, that they would do something like that.
That I first did it.
And you told this jury that's the cause of your financial problems?
So Buster and Randy or John? Probably Randy. I feel like Randy would have been doing
financial problem.
It was
on the Netflix. I haven't watched that yet.
Not the only cause, though, correct?
I know I wouldn't think it was the
I was
only
gonna
cause,
watch it
but
the other night, but
yeah, it was
or
certainly a
whenever it
cause.
came out, the
You
night it
recall
came out.
testimony in
And
this courtroom about
I fell asleep
how
early
you had
post
some land deals go
like
bad
last night and the night
around the
before.
time of the recession in 2008, 2009.
Sure.
And you recall testimony from your law partners in this courtroom that you had some big cases that they thought cured those issues, correct?
I usually
heard
take a
you say
nap
that,
during
yes,
the
sir.
day,
Do you
so when
disagree
I'm
with
up
Do I
streaming in the
disagree with what
morning,
they
I'm
thought?
tired
No, I
early.
mean, I don't have any
Maybe you
reason
disagree if that was true.
that they thought that my partners thought that I gotten past my
I don't know how
financial
people get
difficulties.
through the
I
day
have no
without
reason
naps.
to dispute that, Mr. Waters. I'm not
Was
trying to
that true?
frustrate
Exhausted.
that I was past my financial difficulties. Is that the question?
Yes, that's the question.
Was it true that I was past my financial difficulties? I mean, they were certainly better after that, but I mean, no, I don't pass them. No, sir.
All right. What was the first big case after the recession that you had?
Mr. Waters.
Well, that poor little
I
2-year-old
can't tell
boy.
you what the first big case was.
So I seen they found
What date?
like a sippy
All
cup
right. Well, let's go with
and a footprint. I don't know what to think
the
about that
Pinckney case. Do
because
you remember when that?
did say they
I
saw them in
remember
their
generally
driveway
speaking
or
when it
something
was,
like
yes,
that.
sir.
What year was that? 2011. Would you dispute that?
2011, when it ended?
When you got
Let me tell you, when my
recoveries in
kid
that case?
started kindergarten,
I mean, if you're
I
looking
cried
at
like the
something that
biggest
tells me
baby.
that, I have no reason to dispute that. But
'Cause
I
I
can't
did
remember
not
off the top of my head, but
wanna,
that's certainly
you
in the
know,
time frame.
It's fine.
separate
Let's do it.
and now it's like
Mr. Waters, like I
nap
said,
time.
I take you at that. I just don't know off
Yeah,
the
I'm
top of my
hoping that
head.
sippy cup and that food.
Okay, so Casey,
Maybe
the
he was,
idea
you
here is
know,
that
like
you
a
can only
like
blame
full,
drugs for so much. You know, was he stealing
and
some other reasons as well? And also,
that's
Kurt
why
Warner spent a lot of time.
maybe he
talking
like
about
filmed
financial
himself, so
products
maybe he'll be okay
he
for
was
a little
going
bit.
to probably
I'm
tell the
worried though
jurors.
because it's a
He's able
2-year-old,
to
you know,
lie
like a
to so
2-year-old
many
out.
people. He's able to lie to investigators. He's able to lie to his family, client, friends, law
I
firm.
don't
Why
know
should the
what to
jury
think.
believe that he's telling the truth now?
Exactly. And I do believe that's where he's going. Of course, it
And
started.
apparently
with
there was a little
social
footprint.
but he's basically showing that he lied to his most trusted client, believed that they knew him. And you, jury, you don't really know Mr. Murdaugh other than the 5 weeks that we had this trial.
Oh,
If you
really?
pull
Some
the
beach?
wool
The
over
mom said it
eyes
wasn't his
of,
cup.
let's say, the
Oh,
witnesses that testified before him, the previous housekeepers, the financial
well,
bookkeeper, his
that's
clients, then
disappointing
surely
then.
he's trying to pull the wool out.
I know.
And
I
I mean, I see where he's going, but it's
I
just
only
really
seen that they
frustrating
found. I didn't know
because
she
Yeah.
said it
for
wasn't
me, my
his.
number one
Damn.
pet peeve is for a defendant who's on the stand to repeat.
I wonder who the
every
caretaker,
process
like
that
his
he
caretaker
was.
was.
I heard it the first time. I'm pretty sure you heard it, and what it comes off
Yeah,
as
the
is
parents
trying
were
to cover
like
his tracks and to be
apparently
misled.
I
Tell you what, I
that
think I imagine Kurt Waters is going to
the
go in a different
caretaker,
direction.
whoever the
So we're gonna take a
caretaker
quick
is,
break. When we come back, we're going to wait.
dropped him
Stay
off,
with us.
and he was sleeping, and the parents were sleeping. So I mean, I understand because kids will be like, you know, they'll get up and get. 2 is really young though. I don't know. I mean, my kid, there was a couple times where I was sleeping. My kid got into like, I remember one time he painted himself with Halloween makeup, all black, and white nail polish while I was sleeping. He was sleeping with me, and I guess woke up and got into my stuff. And man, I had to scrub him in the kitchen sink for like 3 hours. That off. But I can't see him like my son at 2 being able to get outside the door, but I guess I would have to like see how their setup is. I don't know. Like if they had like a screen door you could just push or something, then yeah. Does anyone know who the caretaker was, the mom? Or like they said like a caretaker dropped him off to the parents. So whoever, I'm curious who the caretaker was and if offer. Because if the parents were sleeping, why wouldn't you wake them up? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I wasn't there, so I don't know if they woke her up and she went back to sleep or what, but. Your son put powder every place and pretended it was snow for his car. Oh man, my kid drew on the walls white nail polish and Halloween makeup. I'm trying to think. My friend's baby put Crisco all over himself, like in his hair, like everywhere. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know what, I don't know. I don't want to, like, too quickly say something's not adding up because I don't really, they haven't really been too keen on details, but I mean, it makes you wonder, like, how far could a 2-year-old really get? Oh yeah, JLR or BHB. Oh, it's a very bad area? I thought it was like a rural area. My God. It's too early for me to. But I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, how far can a 2-year-old go? I know Captain Kirk was out there searching yesterday for a little bit. He said he's gonna try and go. But yeah, I mean, it's expected. If anything is happening in Florida, you know, JLR and BHB are there.
Welcome back, everybody. So I'm keeping a very careful eye on our courtroom feed down in Walterboro, South Carolina, where the trial against
Yeah,
Alex
I
Murdaugh
don't
is due
watch
to
her
start
either.
up
I
any minute.
don't
I
know.
imagine we're going to see a packed courtroom for this today because
They're not
Alex
entertaining
Murdaugh
to me.
back on the stand. It's going to be very interesting. He's going to be cross-examined by Creighton Waters yesterday. We know that the disgraced former attorney faces charges for the double murder of his wife Maggie and son Paul.
I don't have any problem with people going to the area of where things are going down and covering it. As long as you're covering it respectfully, I appreciate that. I like
can't believe he said it about
seeing the local stuff and you know, I appreciate it if people can cover it respectfully, but she just didn't do it respectfully in my opinion.
And what happened?
Start when I woke up.
Good morning. Rang the jury.
Oh yeah, I was wondering that too. Is that like a big gator area? Hey Sarah. You know what I hate? When you order breakfast and they give you one piece of toast. Like, I need at least 2 pieces of toast and like 4 halves. One piece of toast is not cutting it. I do love me some Judge Newman. He don't take no shit.
Thank you. Good morning. Day number 24, cross-examination. You may proceed.
May it please the court.
I can't believe it's day 24 already. My God.
Morning, Mr. Murdaugh.
Good morning, Mr. Waters.
All right, let's see if we can move forward with this a little bit. See if we can go back to some things we may be able to agree on.
All right, sir.
All right. First thing is that the money you were stealing, in addition to your income and the money you were borrowing, was not just to pay for that.
Sure.
All right. And would you agree that your stealing, in addition to the money you were borrowing, increased over the years as we moved towards June of 2021?
Repeat that, please, sir.
Sure. That you're stealing.
It's okay, Ellie. I wonder why it does that. It
over the
happens all the
years
time for some reason.
as we
If
move
you
towards
have
June of
Discord, because
2021.
in my
Yes, sir.
Discord,
All right.
it'll
And
tell
would you
you.
admit
when
that
I'm
your
going
stealing
live.
increased, in particular, after the boat wreck?
No, sir. I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I think I continued to do it, but I don't. As I sit here today, I don't think I took more money that I should not have taken boat wreck than I did before the boat wreck.
Okay.
But again, those documents speak for themselves, Mr. Waters, and if that's the case, then that's the case. But as we sit here, I think that I probably wrongly took from clients and people that trusted me more as before that boat wreck as after.
All right. And
If
I'm just trying to get through this so we don't get bogged down like we did yesterday. All right.
I understand.
All right. So you wouldn't agree with me that in 2019
It might have been
alone,
because
you
yesterday I
stole
kind of did them like
about $3.7 million?
they were like impromptu lives instead of setting it like a
No,
couple
I
hours
think
ahead
that's
of
correct.
time, which
All
I
right, and
usually
you
do.
Would you agree with me that
So that might be
figure
why
in
you didn't get
2019
notified.
was generally higher than any other year that you've been stealing since 2011?
In any year, sure, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about overall, the whole cycle. But
All right.
yeah, I would agree that in 2019, I stole more money than any other year.
Did Waters?
Would you
talk
agree with
to
me
that
that from
talk with him about
2015
that yet?
on,
Because
your legitimate
that was
income,
Jim.
while still very strong, was
That
diminishing?
was Alex's own lawyer who
as a
got him
general
to
matter.
admit it.
Well, I think whatever my income is speaks for itself,
I
but
don't
as a
think
general
Creighton
rule,
got to that yet.
a plaintiff's lawyer doing what we do, income
Oh, I
ebbs
love
and
watching
flows.
her
Some
too,
you have
Ellie.
some really good years.
If I'm
you
not
have some really
streaming, I'm watching
lean
her.
years. And no, I think I had some good years. Maybe not the $4 and $5 million years, but I think I had some $2 and $3 million years in there. And my caseload was such that, I had one of the things I was working on that Monday was one of the biggest cases that I've ever been involved
Oh,
in.
he
And-
did.
Talking about the
I don't
Dominion
know
case,
why I
right?
wasn't.
Yes,
That
sir.
was probably when I
And
was
so,
at the store, like
I think it was cyclical. I
doing
think
the most.
so. I don't, without looking at the record specifically, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay. So you don't remember then?
No,
That
I do
sucks.
remember.
Why didn't you keep
I
going
don't
into
think
that?
I agree with that. But again, those records will speak for themselves.
Okay. All right. So would you agree with me that in 2014, your reported income was over $1 million?
Objections overruled.
Reported income, like tax wise, or reported? I assume you have a document that says that. And if you're reading that from a document, I don't dispute it.
I mean, I'm happy to show it to you if you like to see
I
it.
trust you, Mr. Waters. So
All right. 2015, would you agree that your reported income was over $2 million?
again, I don't dispute that.
All right. 2016 reported income $900,000.
Okay,
2017 reported income $218,000.
okay,
2018 reported income of $749,000 roughly,
okay.
and 2019 reported income of $655,000.
Okay, and see, I mean, to me, that demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about, how it goes up and down.
And would you agree with me that though during those periods of time where you were making that kind of money, you continued to steal? And I think
Turning
like
as
you
red
said,
as
that
his
your stealing
hair,
increased
Princess
as we
Megan
moved through those
Elsa.
years, as a general matter.
Absolutely.
The
I don't
female
dispute,
state attorney,
and
we
I
call her
have
when
never
no one's
disputed since I was confronted
good-looking guy on
Labor Day
the
weekend
prosecution.
that
The other day, he
I
was wearing like a yellow
took money
tie.
from my clients.
I haven't seen him like
We've
do
gone
any
through that.
questioning or
And I
anything.
Well,
think
but you
we
keep
agree with
asking
that.
me
I'm
about
asking
that.
you if your income,
You can finish your answer.
So the point is I have never, since being confronted that day, my brother and my partner came to talk to me, that I have stolen money that did not belong to me, that I misled people to do it, people that I cared about, still care about,
That's
a lot of
exactly
them
what he's
that I
doing.
love
He's trying to make Creighton
and
look
still
like
love.
he's badgering him.
And I misled them to do it, and I was wrong. I have never disputed that from day one.
we've been through that. All I'm trying to establish right now with you, Mr. Murdaugh, is as we move towards June of 2021, what your financial condition was like, okay? I agree, you've testified to that multiple times, all right? So let me ask you this.
He's trying to
During
like.
this time that your
I feel like he's doing
income
that
was
on
what we just went
purpose to
through,
make
and you conceded that your
Creighton look
stealing was
like he's
increasing,
badgering him,
were you
even though
also
Creighton's
borrowing
trying
significant
to
from
establish.
Palmetto State Bank?
Yes, I'd always borrowed significant amount of money from Palmetto State Bank, or for the last, more than the last decade. So yes, sir, I agree with that.
Yeah, but as we move to June of 2021, did you have $1 million line of credit with the bank that was pretty much, yes or no? As we move to June of 2021?
So in June of 21,
Sure.
yes,
All right. And did you also have a $600,000 line of credit that was pretty much maxed out around that time?
I did.
And did you also, over the years, repeatedly borrow six figures from your law partners?
Well, I borrowed money from a law partner,
Which one?
Johnny Parker.
Johnny Parker. Okay. And that was a fairly common occurrence over the years. It happened multiple times. Would you agree with that?
I agree that it happened multiple times.
All right. And you would agree you would sometimes use some of the stolen money to pay that back?
I won't dispute that. I don't know that that's the case. I know what I saw Mr. Bernie testify to in using that particular accounting method. I see that.
All right.
So I don't dispute that.
All right. And would you agree that you also, when you needed money, occasionally borrow as much as 5 and 6 figures from your father, Mr. Randolph?
I did.
And would you also agree that over the years, particularly as we moved to, you would use stolen money to pay that back?
I don't dispute that. If that's what the record shows.
All right. And you just mentioned here in the testimony of Carson Burney and the banker and all that, you would agree with me that as we move to June of 2021, liquid funds, you were running out of money.
In liquid funds is in money on hand or money that I could get?
Money that you could, liquid funds. You're a lawyer, you know what liquid means. Were you
Well,
running out
I
of
don't
money?
know what you mean by liquid, Mr. Waters, and so
Money you could readily access, assets that you could readily access to pay your ever increasing.
no, sir, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that.
I do not agree with that,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why.
All right.
So are we talking about June?
I'm talking about as we move to June.
Okay, but what time period are you talking
All
about?
right, let's talk about January to June.
Okay, January to June. January to
Alex
June,
is making this so
Yeah.
difficult, dude. Just like,
my
does it
father,
got to be like
I could
so?
borrow money from Johnny Parker.
Mhm.
I could go to the bank and borrow money. I had substantial equity in the Edisto house,
Okay.
as we've talked about.
Which was in Maggie's name, correct?
Well, it was in Maggie and my name. You know, that definitely was in both of our names. Moselle was in Maggie's name. There's substantial equity in that could have been borrowed against. So under the terms as you assets just now, money that I would have access to, I disagree with
Okay.
on that, for those reasons that I just said.
Can we at least agree that generally the way the compensation structure for legitimate money that you earned in your law firm, the vast majority of your compensation does not come except in one lump sum in December?
Right, we get a salary. We would receive a salary. I believe our salary was $125,000.
Right.
And then the income that was earned would be paid in the form of a bonus at the year end.
All right. And then would you agree with me that that is why you stole these in March of 2021? Because you were in desperate need of funds and you could not wait till December to access those funds.
I think there's probably a lot of reasons why I stole those funds, but I certainly would believe or
Yeah.
don't dispute the reasons.
And would you agree with me that the $792,000 that you stole of those Ferris
Is
funds,
that his
that you
sister,
exhausted
Shelley?
those within about 2 months?
I don't
Yeah,
know
I
the
think
time
it is.
period,
Or
but I know
unless
that
it's John Marvin's wife.
I know that I exhausted them.
Now, again, I'm trying to get through this quickly because there's a lot more to talk about, obviously. But we went through a number of questions yesterday about
Really?
the
You drive by the
various
law firm every day? That's
clients
crazy.
that you stole from, correct? You remember that? Back and forth we had yesterday. Do you remember all that?
Sure I do.
Okay. All right. And so I'm going to try to shorten this.
Oh, come
That
on.
we at least say the name of the people that were involved to see if we can
Why am I having
improve.
Marvin's wife? Okay.
Clients talking about, these are all real people, yes or no?
They're all real people.
All right.
They're
And
all
these
good
clients-
people.
Okay.
They're all people that I cared about then. And a lot of them are people that I love.
Okay.
And I did wrong by them.
Yes, you hurt the people that you love, I know. So
Sustained.
these were all people, every single who at least had a personal conversation with at some point during the course of your representation.
Oh, it's law and crime.
clients.
Okay.
Representation.
I got a little nervous.
Absolutely. I had multiple conversations with all of my clients.
And these were people, every single one of them, real people that you looked in the eye and convinced right.
I was like, man, I didn't have no trouble
403
yesterday. I don't know
tentative,
what's
he
going
would,
on.
Spent 2 hours doing this yesterday.
But simple questions that applies to everybody, and then I'm moving on.
Proceed.
I would have had conversations with all of my clients. And that conversations would have been on the telephone.
You sure
I
did,
would have had
Mark.
conversations where I might not be looking them in the eye. I would have had plenty of conversations where I did look them in the eye.
Every single one of them looked them in the eye at least once. Is that fair?
Sure.
Every single one of them, you looked them in the eye and developed their trust in you. Is that true?
Every client that I had, at some point, I looked them in the eye and I believed that I had the trust of my clients. Whether that came from me looking them in the eye or not, I can't answer that, but I will agree with you that every single client, I looked them in the eye and I believe that the people for all those years, trusted me.
And I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as states 329, I believe it is, and 314. And I'm just going to ask you to peruse those spreadsheets really quickly. And have one or two questions about that.
This is getting like super annoying. He just repeats the same thing over and over again. Like he's being so difficult.
All right, so question?
I just asked you to look at them. Have you had a chance to review those documents?
I have.
All right. And would you agree with me that every single name on
This
here
man always looks mad.
are either clients that trusted you that you stole from, or instances in which you stole from who trusted you as well?
I agree with that.
Hey,
I
Kayla.
don't need to go through each one of these, correct? You agree?
Good morning.
Mr. Waters, like I've told you, I'll go through whatever you want to go through, but each one of those clients is just what we've already talked about. Good people, fine people, upstanding people. They trusted me. Every single one of them I did, and I do still care about. And many of them I love and consider them close friends.
If I have to hear him repeat this for like the
Absolutely. It's a perfect
87,000th
example.
time, I'm just
Stole
gonna
from you recall a
punch him on my
conversation that you had with
screen.
Ronnie
Like,
Crosby.
come on, man. We know.
She told you that Barrett was desperate for money because he needed his wife to stay in a hotel near him while he was undergoing treatment for terminal cancer around the time that you stole from him.
Say, Your Honor.
Not last night. Last night I made
I don't
shepherd's
recall that
pie.
conversation, but you know, I knew Barrett was
I'm
sick.
gonna have to wait till
You know,
Monday
Barrett
because
is a
when my
unique
son gets
situation.
home from
I mean,
school,
Barrett-
he goes to his dad's house on Fridays, and he
Barrett-
usually gets picked up like right after school.
Is
So,
and was
on Monday,
dear to
or
me.
he comes back Sunday night, but on Monday after school, I'll take him for some Five Guys.
I mean,
I
Barrett and I
did
had
get
a
a bunch of
long,
Hot Wheels cars
long
and candy.
history,
If you didn't see
you
my
know.
community post, though.
I guess really, and I lied probably more by omission, lies by omission and stealing that money. Perfect example. You keep asking about me having these conversations and looking people in the eye. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, when I stole that money, he was nowhere around. It was more based on lies by omission. And Barrett and I
I
had such a
have one
history.
near me at the
These real
KOP
estate deals
Mall,
that you're
and
asking
then
me
there's
was one
in
of my good
like
friends, and we've
Plymouth,
been in these
I think. There's
real
a Five
estate
Guys.
deals
Yeah, we
together.
have Five
Barrett
Guys
was
around
just
here.
an interesting person. He was a shrimper, was born and raised in Allendale County. And he moved down to the coast. And
Mr. Murdaugh,
as shrimping,
Mr. Murdaugh, I don't know that we need Barrett's entire life story.
no, but it's saying
Ask
this
you
based on the
this.
question you asked.
I don't think his entire life story is responsive, Your Honor.
And I'm not intending to give his life story. I'm just telling you a little background.
Go
so
ahead.
you'll
Tell us
understand
about
it.
your friend that you stole from.
He
So
reminds you of
Barrett
Dr. Phil. I can see that.
Started getting into real estate, and he was really good at it, and getting involved with him in that. He could
that
go out
sounds
and
good.
find pieces of property.
Oh,
that were
no,
really cheap,
he
get 'em,
had
sell 'em, and make money.
lots of
Well,
candy and was
we got
sugared
in some
up,
of these deals,
but he also got,
and
because
we got in with
Ryan
Barrett, and
said
it was some
he
other
super
people.
chatted
Well,
me to make sure that I
when
get
the
him all
recession
sugared
hit,
up. So
one of the
he got a
reasons
bunch of
these
candy
land-
and sugar and
because
bought
the
a bunch of
people
Hot
that I
Wheels
was
cars.
in these
He
deals
was
with
too into playing with
no
them to
longer
let me
could
take a
pay,
picture. So he
whereas
gave
I
me
might
all the
have gone in and
boxes
I
to
was a
take a picture
20%
of.
person. I'm now all of a sudden, either I have to default at the bank and affect credit, affect ability. I have to pay 100%. And so that's what I did. I paid 100%. And so there were years where I was paying, instead of a fifth or a half, I'm paying the whole thing. And it equated to hundreds of thousands, it equated to millions of dollars, which is one of the ways why I ended up with the Moselle property, because I had paid more than $1 million in monies for Barrett, and that was part of the deal in the trade in me purchasing Moselle.
So what you're telling me, title to steal from him?
No. You know what? I will tell you this, that, you know, when you're doing the things wrong that I was doing, you have all kind of ways of justifying it. And I'm not saying that makes it right by any means, because it's not. It's wrong times. But when I was doing it, and I was as addicted as I was, and the things I was doing, there's all kind of things that you know, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, you lie to yourself. And I guess self-justification for these bad things, you know, I guess is what I was doing. But, you know, Barrett had owed me so much money that when I took his money, I just didn't tell him. So it was a lie by omission.
All right. All the on these two exhibits, these were real people that needed this money. Is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
But it was more important to you that you stole their money on top of the 40% of legal fees that you were taking. I've never asked that question.
I stole their money.
It was more important to you than their needs. Is that correct?
Objection.
Objections overruled.
I don't remember sitting down and calculating, okay, is this more important? You know, one of the self-justifications that I talked about, Mr. Waters, is, and this is, again, I want to make it clear. I don't, as I sit here today, I do not believe that any of this justifications that I'm talking about made any of this okay, because I don't. I've owned up to all this money I stole. I've tried to since I was confronted, and I continue here today. Justifications at the time when I was taking pills and doing the things I was doing was, I may ask a partner, okay, how much is this case worth? And if one of my partners, and I may not even give them all the real facts, okay? So this case is worth $100,000. Okay, and I go out and I get them $300,000. You know, that's one
I feel like Alex looks so different
stupid little
than
things. Okay, well, this isn't
his.
the same. And that's one of those justifications that I used in looking back on this that I don't know how.
Hey, that's right.
So to sit down and say, did I evaluate that they needed the money more than I did? You know, I don't think I did that. I think I was selfish, and I think I just took the money.
Okay. I think I understand.
I can like.
I asked you a series of questions.
It's weird though, because I feel like Randy and John look nothing
Conversation
like
you had
him.
with one of these clients. And I'm just going to ask you
But
this one.
I can
Do you
see,
remember
like, when he makes certain
looking Tony
faces, I can
Satterfield
see
in the eye?
Paul's face and I can see Buster.
I remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
And lying to him,
Yeah,
lying to his family?
Poor Tony. That poor
I
guy.
lied to his family.
I just wanted to
I
hug
don't know if
him.
I did it in person, but I know I had conversations with him where I lied to him.
Let's talk a little bit about the pills, if we can.
You're right,
Okay.
Kayla. He probably will get pity with
Um,
someone that had a drug problem on the
and-
jury.
You've already testified, as have other people, that you were still able to function.
He
as a
might
whole
be.
despite the
He
pills
might be
that you
feeling a
used.
little different
Is that correct?
here.
Yes, sir.
And
It's got to be a hard position to be in because
you were able, of course, during this period of time to engage in these relatively complicated.
I would never be
thefts
able
that
to, like,
increased over the
especially
years
if
that you just
your
talked
dad was
despite
someone
the
who was
ability to
held in
possess.
like a high.
Hmm?
It's probably
I
going to be
was.
really hard to imagine that your dad could do something like that.
And
You know,
you were also able to, during this time period, convince your staff that nothing was amiss with all of these exhibits, despite your pill usage?
I mean, most of those didn't require convincing my staff, but just so we're on the same page again, I acknowledge that I certainly to be misled. I certainly allowed them to do things that I shouldn't have done on my behalf, knowing that they trusted me.
How many pills were you using a day?
Depends on a number of, most importantly, how strong the pill was.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, let's say start maybe in January of 2021 and move forward. Can you describe to the jury what your daily pill intake was like?
I think at that time, most of what I was purchasing was 30-gram pills, instant release, oxycodone, that probably mixed in with some OxyContin, which is made of oxycodone. It's just time release. I would anywhere from 1,500 milligram to maybe a thousand or maybe 1,000 milligrams or 1,200 milligrams on a day I didn't take as much or didn't have as much, up to many days, a lot of days, most days were more than that, and many days would be, 20, more than 2,000 milligrams a day.
And how many pills is that?
It depends on the strength.
Well, let's say it's the
Of the
30s that you just mentioned.
If I had 30 milligram pills, you figure 100 pills would be 3,000 milligrams.
100?
100.
All right, so you're taking 60 a day or something like that? I mean,
There were days I took less than that.
and how would you take them during the course of the day? I mean, how many are you taking at one time? How frequent in this time period, let's say January to June?
There's a point in time, and I'm not sure when it was, I think it was well before that, where, and you have to understand this, something that I didn't.
I agree, Mark.
I can
I
still
think
remember
so
the
too.
first time I ever took an OxyContin.
Mr. Murdaugh, can I ask you to answer my question, and I'll let you explain all you want. And my question was, how many were you taking a day during this time from January to June? Answer that first, please, and if you want to explain, I'm happy to let you do so.
I'm not positive. It's because over the years,
Man, I
as I
can't.
was saying, the first one OxyContin made me sick. And that was when I was transitioning from hydrocodone to oxycodone. And it made me sick because there's a really, really, really strong one. And so one OxyContin pill was like 10 hydrocodone pills. So, but anyway, as I took more and more, and over the years, it just, you build up a tolerance to pain pills. And so what might give me
I think
this
he means
energy, the
oxycodone,
reason
not
I became so addicted is,
I mean,
some people
unless
talk
it
about
was like
pain pills
one of
and
those
how they make them
extended
lethargic
release
and,
ones. But
where they can't do
I don't even
anything
know if
and they
people
feel.
can get them anymore.
Opiates gave me energy. I mean, whatever I was doing.
Well,
it
they
made it
started
more
making
interesting.
like a gel around
made
it,
me
so
wanna
you couldn't
do it
so
longer. To go on a
they
drive, it made driving. It just
they like
at the beginning it made
long
everything
release,
better.
but
But I took
drug
so
addicts found a way
much
around that
just to
somehow
keep.
too.
It
I
got to a
forget
point where I
how,
was
but
taking so much just to not or go into withdrawals or have all
I mean,
those
depends what
symptoms.
he was
And
taking.
so
Like you know,
it
you're
got to the
doing it
point
for a
where
while.
I was
You could
taking
probably take, and it depends how you're
the
intaking
amounts
it,
that I
too.
came to be taking
Like if he was
in
like
the time period you're
wanting
talking
them
about,
or
January
something,
to
you could
June.
probably take 5 in a few hours.
So over time, it wasn't like it just started then, Mr. Waters.
Right, can you just give me one
And
example?
if he was
of
an
a day
addict, it
during that
wouldn't
time period?
surprise
Sure.
me if
So,
he
I mean,
was
just
doing
you
that.
start at 8 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time you got up, and take one, and then one every 30 minutes. I mean,
Well, no,
I've given you a chance to explain. So
it would
now
totally
be
depend.
specific.
It would totally on any number of circumstances. So starting a day, one of the main things
1,000
that this would
milligrams a
depend
day?
on
No
was
way.
how late the day before I had taken
Maybe about like
pills and
500,
how many I had taken.
400,
And
1,000.
did
No.
I take them during the night? Did I wake up during the night? And, you know, let's just say that it had been a while since I took any and I slept and I woke up. All right. Then I would immediately, first thing, take pills, because if it's been a while, a lot of times slept and hadn't taken pills, you'd wake up and you could tell.
I mean, there might be
beginnings
like
of
a day or
those-
two where he hit like 1,000, but
I'm
not
saying they
like
were
on
really
a daily
withdrawals,
basis.
but that agitation that you feel when you don't take it, and you could tell it, so you had to take it right away. And so I would start off, first thing I would do would take pills.
And that's how strong the withdrawals are for opiates, correct? That you feel that agitation until you can take another pill.
Yeah, I mean, he could do that, but I don't think
Yes.
it would be
I
day.
mean, that's just
Like, I think
agitation's the tip of the iceberg.
I don't think every day he'd
when
hit
it
1,000,
comes to
but
withdrawals,
he
opiate
could
withdrawals.
definitely
I think
tend.
you said in your
Well, I mean,
Western plate for the
I
jury
guess,
and,
I guess you
telephone
could,
conversation with
because
Special Agent Kelly,
I think a lot of what
that
stops
you
people
talked about
from
withdrawals, just how
more
strong they are,
is
how
not
you're
having
willing
the
to do
money. But
anything to make them
if
stop,
you're getting,
correct?
I think what I said is almost anything.
Almost anything. Well,
you
describe
know,
that, please.
I mean, you're sick.
you have
I mean, you're physically,
$60,000 to spend
you
in
know,
a week.
you are physically sick.
You know, but I don't think
You,
he was even spending that much. What I'm saying, if you find the
It's
money,
like having
he
the
might be able to
flu
get
when
to
you
1,000
ache
milligrams.
and your joints hurt. You don't want to get up. You can't get up, and that's after a while.
I definitely think it's
starts
possible,
with
but
what
I
you're
don't
talking about,
think it would be
agitation,
like,
and fidgeting.
that
Everybody
would be
talks
like a
about how fidgety I
normal.
was.
But like maybe
But
on like a day where he
it
just
starts
went off and did like
with
a
the
lot,
day,
or he
and then
was,
it goes to,
needing
you know,
some
you just-
extra energy.
you might be sitting here and just all of a sudden sweat's running down your
Yeah,
face.
well, a lot of people,
all
it
over
gives
your
you
body, and
energy.
like you ran a marathon. I mean, you literally sweat.
A lot of people
Um,
don't get tired from them,
the
especially if you're
next thing
addicted
that
to them.
comes on
A lot of people
after
get
about,
energy from them, and it
I don't
depends
know,
how you're
12
doing them.
hours is,
You know, a lot of people
I call
who
it jumpy
snort
legs,
them
but I
get
mean, you
energy,
literally, I
and
mean,
they'll keep doing them
there's no
for the
way that
energy
you
in the
could
day.
sit right here in this chair. I mean, you couldn't,
It doesn't knock.
you couldn't. You
All
would
right,
have
so
to
if
get
you're
up and
taking
move
them,
around, and I
you're
mean,
just
it's
started
like your
taking them,
legs
it'll
don't
knock
want
you
to
the F
work.
out. But if you're
And
addicted
that
to them,
lasts for about
no.
anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. During that period, the intestinal and
I know a
you
lot of people
literally
who've had pill addictions, and
can't
let me tell
control
you, I've seen some people
yourself.
do.
You have
If they had money,
diarrhea like you
they
have
they,
food
they
poisoning.
could do it. And if he was doing cocaine with it, oh, he could do
You
it.
throw up.
Dude, if you're doing cocaine, you
Um,
don't even feel it. You just keep doing it,
physically
and
sick.
you're
How many times did you try to self-detox?
Mr. Waters,
like, all right. So like, if somebody's doing
dozens,
cocaine, then you feel like you need more of the other stuff to bring
if
you
not
down,
hundreds.
and then
I-
but
you know,
not too
there's so
much
many I
down, so you
can't
do more
tell you.
cocaine, and then it's weird how addicts
Those-
work.
those
But I
symptoms
mean,
you
I'm
just
pretty sure he
described are
tested positive
extremely
for
powerful.
cocaine too, so he'd
Made
probably
it
do
very difficult
cocaine,
to
but then
do
he'd get
that,
too jittery, and then do a little bit
Made
of
it
that to
difficult
mellow
to-
him out a little bit, and then at night do
Oh,
Xanax.
it's extremely hard.
You mentioned yesterday,
Yeah, well, roll tide, you have to think a lot of those opioid addicts would never
long
have
back.
that money to be able
Well,
to spend
no,
on them
I
like that
didn't say
too.
that I was
So,
paranoid.
most
What I
addicts
said was,
are
as the addiction evolved, there would be
racing up the chump
situations
chain. So
where
I don't know.
you would have these paranoid thoughts.
and when did
And-
those first start?
When they first started, but
I mean, how long before June of 2021?
a long
Week,
time.
a month, a
Oh,
long
no,
time?
no. It was, it was as my addiction got worse. I mean, it was a significant period of time.
Exactly,
But,
Sharon. Thank God.
What thoughts?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's possible.
usually
especially
a
if
matter
you
of
have that kind
seconds.
of money.
I mean,
I think a lot
it
of
was
people do
something-
less because they don't have the
again-
money. I mean, it's expensive. So.
my whole life, you
Okay,
wouldn't
Bray.
see me where I didn't have pills on me. That's where I kept them. I kept them on me because I was scared to put where somebody would find them. So I kept them on me. So if you saw me, I had pills on me. I had a pocket full of pills on June the 8th. On June the 8th, when I was sitting in David Owen's patrol car. I always had them on me, and I might be going to Edstone.
All right,
and
so I put it
turn
this way.
on
I
Hampton
know
Street
people
right out
who
here, and the
before
police car
the
pulls out.
all right, say like the
Boom. I
oxycodone
have
came out, they were doing like
Paranoid thoughts.
10 oxy
You know,
80s
it
a
just-
day. You know what I mean? That's
But-
close. That touches. You know what I mean?
I could always
10 oxy 80 is
say-
about 800 milligrams. So
you're not doing anything wrong.
It's
He's
possible,
not following you,
but-
and I could get past it. And
you got to
matter
be
of seconds.
pretty far in addiction and had to build a pretty big tolerance up, I would think.
Did anybody ever see you having these severe withdrawals?
Absolutely.
And who did?
Mags, Paw, Bus, my dad, Randy, John Marvin. And just to be clear, Randy and John Marvin never saw me having withdrawals before September. They
So
saw
who-
me.
And I thank you for clarifying that. Prior to June of 2021, who in your family saw you?
Bus, Paw, Maggie, my dad.
Do you remember calling Paul a little detective?
I don't know that I ever called him a little detective, but I think Maggie did. I may have. I mean, Paul was very intuitive. So
Yeah, that's what he calls Paul,
I
Kayla.
heard
think you said
Miriam.
that during
I
one of
heard
your interviews.
Miriam call him a little detective. I know Maggie.
Did that have anything to do with the pills?
Well, yeah, it had something to do with it, but I mean, Paul was always that way, but that what led him to be called a little detective, certainly there were times when Paul found pills.
Including just a month before the murders. Is that correct?
No, sir.
You recall 6/5/23 that was entered into evidence, which is a text from Paul to you,
I do.
which he said that Maggie found pills in your bag.
Right.
Tell me about what happened after
You
that.
asked me about Paul finding them, but it was Maggie that found them.
Fair enough. So it was Maggie that found them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Paul is the one who reached out to you, correct?
On that occasion, yes, sir.
And what was the discussion after that?
I can't remember exactly what it was. It was about that I'd had eye surgery I don't know what day it was, but days before that, the day Maggie found them, Maggie drove me to the doctor for me to have my cataract whatever they call that surgery. I can't remember, but I had a cataract taken out, outpatient. You go in for a couple hours and you come out. And it was during COVID. And so Maggie wasn't allowed to come into the doctor's office. And so she sat in the car. And I had left pills in the computer bag and sitting out there bored. I guess she started looking at my computer and found them in the computer bag. So she found those pills.
All right. And so she obviously told Paul, and Paul texted you about finding those pills
That's correct.
in May of 2021.
That's correct.
And you've heard your sister-in-law, Marion, testify that Maggie called him, the little detective, about the pills. You heard that testimony in this courtroom?
I did hear that.
All right. So did they start to watch you like a hawk and get on you during the month of May?
No,
They did not.
no, Mr. Waters, this battle that I had with addiction, it had been going on for years. And so they had been watching me like a hawk for years before May. May was just one occurrence where I let them down again.
All right. They had been watching you like a hawk for years. Is that correct?
About my pill addiction, yes, sir. That's correct.
This time in May, that wasn't Paul found pills or Maggie found pills. Is that correct?
Now, there were a number of times where Mags found pills, Paw found pills, Bus found pills. I mean, it was an ongoing, it was just an ongoing battle for me.
And after they found those pills in May, that being Maggie and Paul, were they trying to get you to self-detox?
I wish you would stop letting them talk about these pills because I feel like it's
No, sir,
going
not at that
to
point in time.
create like a
Just let it go.
Let it
either
go.
way.
But at that point in time, Paul and I had already had a discussion based on, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there'd been a previous occasion a while back where there'd been a previous occasion where either Maggie and Paul had come to me and asked me, and I told him, you know, I was back on the pills.
The
And
problem with this is that there's almost every person like there's not a person I don't know who doesn't know someone or hasn't had some kind of addiction story.
we had a long talk. As I said,
Their
I don't
life that
remember
they can't
exactly what
relate
it was
to
before
it,
that. Paul and
so.
I had a long talk. We'd agreed, I'd agreed, and I detoxed so many times. I'd been to detox. I detoxed at home with Maggie's help. I detoxed at home with doctor's help. Detoxed on my own, tried to.
It's like humanizing him, you know?
Just detoxing just didn't work. It just, you
Hey,
couldn't.
Linda, you're late.
You could detox.
I have to get you with
but
my
you
ruler.
couldn't- No, not you. I couldn't stay off of them. So I promised Paul that as soon as we finished with his criminal case, rehab, and and on this particular occasion, Paul knew that his mom worried about me so much with pills that on this particular occasion, I think that Paul convinced Maggie that I got those pills in anticipation of the eye surgery, but that I never took them so that she would not worry that I was once again.
So you're talking about in May that Paul talked to Maggie and convinced her of that? Or are you talking about a different time?
I'm not claiming that, Mr. Waters. That's a fact. This is what happened.
All right, we're hearing that now, correct?
Hearing what now?
What you just said.
Well, you just asked me this. Mr. Waters, you keep making the issue about the first time you hearing these things. Arrested and I went to jail. We began reaching out to you to talk to you about all of these things, to try to tell you everything that I'd done, to give you all these details to help y'all go through these financial things. And up until the time that y'all charged me with murdering my wife and child, you would never give Jim Griffin a response to our invitations to sit down and meet with you.
So you're telling me I never responded to Jim Griffin? Is that what you're saying here today?
I'm telling you.
Are you saying that you ever before yesterday reached out to anyone through yourself or through your attorneys and reached out to anyone prosecution and told them the story about the kennels? Are you telling me that?
What I'm telling you,
answer my
Mr.
question
Waters,
first, please, sir. Answer my question first. Did you ever reach out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and tell that story that you told this jury yesterday about the kennels before yesterday?
law enforcement to say, I want to tell you about the kennels? No, sir, I did not.
This is the Fifth Amendment line.
Pardon?
This questioning about him volunteering information on these charges violates his Fifth Amendment rights, and we strongly object. Any more, we have to make a motion.
The objection's overruled.
What I did was,
Answer my question first,
You know,
sir.
for the record, he did not bring it. He was talking about financial
Sit down,
stuff.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes or no question. Before yesterday, did you ever bring up what you told this jury about that kennels to anybody in the prosecution or anybody in law enforcement?
no, I didn't have the opportunity to, Mr. Waters, because you would not to my invitations to reach out and tell you about all the things that I'd done wrong. And to talk about bringing this to a head, to talk about bringing this to closure. I understand how many people I hurt. I understand how angry my partners are. And I understand how hurt these people that I stole money from are. I understand how hurt they are. And one of the things that I believe is getting past this may help them get some closure. And so since at least January, I've been trying to stand with y'all, to talk to y'all.
Okay.
And never, ever got a response to the multiple requests.
Multiple requests?
Yes, sir, multiple requests. I would ask about this.
Mr. Murdaugh.
every
Let's
few
ask
weeks.
this, sir.
Sir?
Did Mark Ball ever story to the jury about the kennels until yesterday? Your buddy and law partner, Mark Ball?
Listen, I haven't spoken to Mark Ball since I went to rehab.
And these were the same law partners that you were listening to the night of. Is that what you testified to this jury earlier? You testified to that earlier.
I don't understand your question.
Didn't you testify earlier that you were listening to your law partners on the night of the incident?
Was I listening to them?
Yeah, you testified to that. It's a simple question, sir.
I'm sure I was. When are you talking about?
On June 8th in the early morning hours, you testified to this jury that you were listening, told them the criminal story either, and they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday.
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time Johnny Parker ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes.
First time Danny Henderson, who was representing you in the boat case, ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes, yesterday is the first time that I have said that openly. But that's not what you were asking me, Mr. Waters, but you go ahead.
You heard that was yesterday.
If he was listening.
I'm so confused. So I typed it in chat, right? That link, and it goes to something completely different. But when I type it in
And Mr. Waters,
Messenger,
just
it
to be
comes
clear,
up with my page.
I was begging for a meeting
Like,
with
what is
y'all
it?
to try to bring this to a close, to talk anything up until the time that y'all charged me with hurting Maggie and Paul. Now, after that point in time, I stopped, obviously.
Information that you were begging for a meeting and but you admit information was never conveyed that you wanted to change your story after multiple interviews with law enforcement about what happened that night, including the most important fact of all, which is when the last time you supposedly saw your wife and son alive was.
I don't know exactly what was conveyed or not because I wasn't part of it. All I know
Fair
is
enough.
what
You don't
I
know
was
that.
trying to do was to sit down. I understood all this to a close, that y'all would want me to sit down and go through all of these financial things, all of these things that I'd done wrong, and to try to
Yeah,
bring
be
that
on
to
for
a
a little bit.
close. I was
At least till lunch.
repeatedly trying to sit down with y'all.
The reality is, Mr. Murdaugh, is the reason why no one heard that before is because you had to sit in this courtroom and hear your family and your friends, one after the other, come in and testify that you were on that kennel video. So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts that can't be denied. Isn't that true, sir?
No, sir, that's not true.
You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Waters, I have lied many times, but I can't sit here and tell you that, what are you talking about, facts that I can't deny? That I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out, that was what I did all the time. But in doing that, I admit again that I've lied to people that trusted me.
So we can agree that the prosecution and law enforcement and so many of your friends and family heard for the first time your story about the kennels yesterday, these weeks of testimony. Can we agree on that?
That law enforcement, my partners, and my friends heard me say that for the first time. Yes, I agree with that.
Would you agree with me?
I'm hoping by lunch they'll be done. Because he said he needed like 3 hours.
That your own lawyer was repeating your story that you were at home napping as late as November of 22 on national television.
I don't know.
You don't know that?
No, in jail, get newspapers and the TV we have is limited. So
So your own lawyers, at least as late as November 22, didn't know this story that you've told to this jury after 5 weeks of your family and friends coming in and saying, yeah, that's him on that video.
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor, violates attorney-client privilege communication. Totally improper.
Yes, sir. Response.
He has brought up his communications with counsel, and now that is fair game.
Sometimes it takes a while, Nina.
His communications through counsel with, or alleged communications with the prosecution.
He didn't.
There's no attorney-client privilege to national television. The objection is overruled.
Answer, Mr. Waters, or did I answer?
I think the point's made.
All right, sir.
You said you were unaware of that national television interview. Is that what you said? You were
Unaware of what national television
The
interview?
one where your lawyer repeated that story as late as November of 2022. Your story that you were actually home asleep at the.
The only national TV ad that I'm aware of is not ad program is one that Mr. Griffin was involved in. Was are you referring to like a Dateline something?
At HBO.
Okay, HBO. All right, like, so, yeah, I am aware of that. And what I believe the case to be is that I believe that when that was in its works, that Mr. Griffin made those statements sometime substantially before no 22, as early as around the very beginning of
Yay!
2021,
The lizard comes back.
Let's talk.
soon.
at least what I understand to be the case.
All right, let's talk some more about your testimony from yesterday. And you're telling this jury, even on something as clear as a skin on video, some change,
show
and
y'all
you have to make them fit the facts
adorable
that no longer.
crocodile
Is that what you're telling this jury?
wallpaper I got. Hold on.
I don't understand that question. Say that again.
I said, you're telling this jury that you don't change your story to make the facts fit evidence you can no longer deny, like what's been going on in this court.
I'm not telling the jury anything about that.
All right, good. All right, let's move on. Let's talk some more about that issue. Let's talk about the confrontation on June the 2nd, which you said was no big deal. Isn't that what you testified? Words to that effect?
I think what I testified to is that, to me, it certainly didn't seem like a confrontation. Jeannie came to me and was almost apologetic. And this, Mr. Waters,
God
is
damn
I
it, I'm
believe
muted.
that
Sorry.
what Jeannie
Yeah,
Seckinger and my partners have
Gator
had to go through
skin for the back. Sorry.
since
I'm
September
going to put it back on in 1 second.
has been
This is
hard.
going to go all around the back of me. And I
I-
figured I was going to do
I know
brick,
they,
but I
I
was
mean, I
like,
could see it
gator skin is so,
hurt.
So I'm going
that
to
I
put this on
caused
the
them.
wall.
And I
And
know
I
that they're
know
betrayed, and I know
love
that
my
they're
pink,
angry, and I know that they're hurt.
But I've decided I'm going to
I want
do
to make clear
black
to
and
this
red.
that
So I'm going to paint
while I disagree
these
with
parts
what
of my
Jeannie
hair
said
red
as to
because I feel like
it
it
being
goes with
a
the
confrontation,
theme of a little
believe that it
better. Like
was.
the pink
I don't think
too
that she was
girly.
lying. I think
No.
that she feels it.
Sorry.
I think that, she
Sorry.
believes that that's
I just
the
wanted to show
case
y'all. Isn't this
after
cute?
all
It's
this
not
time
real
that she's had to
gator.
deal with this. But on June the
like
7th, when she
fake
came to me,
gator. I don't
she
know.
was
It's
almost
wallpaper.
apologetic. You heard her say that she said
I
be
agree
doing her job if she
with
didn't
killing
do this.
gators.
And
over.
it was made clear to me that someone had said this.
Unless they eat old
um,
ladies and their
that
dogs.
I had to make sure that income came through the firm, that I couldn't structure money. In other words, I had the impression that there was concern that maybe like Mark Ball and Ronnie Crosby said, that maybe I was hiding fees because of the civil boat case. But
Let me see if I
that
can
conversation was so
summarize.
quick, Mr. Waters, that you keep using the confrontation. I didn't take it as a confrontation.
And you're telling this jury you're not making that issue fit, make your story fit with those facts by saying, it wasn't a big deal, and Jeannie, she's hurt, so she's overreacting now.
No, that's
You
not
got
what
on
I'm
that
saying.
stand and testify.
What I'm saying is exactly what I just testified to, that to me, on that day, that was not a confrontation. It ended quickly as it began, and I didn't think about it
YouTube
again
warned you to behave.
for a period of time until after everything happened.
You testified earlier, you get paranoid if a police officer turns out behind you, but you're not getting paranoid when Jeannie comes in here and about these fees.
By the way,
No,
Devil
because-
Dave is going to buy a
No,
4090
things
today,
like that wouldn't cause
which means
the paranoid
you're
thought and
broke
the
for like the
paranoid
next
thinking. It was always
couple
related
months
to
because
pills.
now he's got to
It was always, okay, that
buy
reaction
everything
that
new in his
somebody just gave me,
computer.
It was always related to pills.
do- did something somebody said. It was, I mean, the times that's what, when I had to deal with paranoid thinking, that, you know, if a judge confronted me in the courtroom about a piece of evidence, or if
Is the forest the one with the alien? What did I do? How did I do this?
dealt more
I
with
meant to hit
the
stop
venue
cam and I
motion
stopped my
than they did
screen.
with the motion to compel, I believe is what I
Are
said.
you telling
We
the story
got
that you
I
didn't?
need
are
Red Bull
concerned
so bad.
about
Is the forest the one?
I wasn't
I'm
overly
just gonna
concerned
chug
about
this
it.
right now because I am
And I'm
going
sure
all
I
over
had
the place.
some level of
Um,
concern because the venue
Is the
motion
forest the one with the
was,
alien?
it was a big issue in the case.
And like you go on the platforms and you have to shoot them. And thank you.
Tinsley at the trial lawyers conference.
No, absolutely, unequivocally.
No shit.
never
Let
happened.
me tell him that because I've been telling him I think you should just get the 4080. But no, he wants the 4090. Because he got to be all bougie.
If the Ferris fee issue
Oh, you know I'm
comes to
totally down
light
for a hard
on
game.
June 7th, you're not going to be able to borrow money from Johnny Parker anymore, are you?
If the Ferris
muting
fee,
'cause I'm calling
hypothetically
him right
speaking,
now.
if the Ferris fee came to light on June the 7th, well, here, any point in time, if the Ferris fee came to light, Johnny Parker would not loan me money.
Okay.
If Johnny knew that I had taken fees, I would not have been able to borrow money from Johnny Parker.
You testified earlier about going to the Gamecock baseball game on the weekend prior to Monday, June the 7th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Hold on for me real quick. All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as stage 572. You got your readers with you, or your glasses. And have you, first, I just want you to look through that document and then answer the question, do you generally know what that is?
Waters. Someone wants something, so if you'll stand for a moment, everybody stand for a moment. We come to order.
May it please the court. Have you had a chance to review that, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
All right, and do you recognize what those are generally?
I do.
And what are they?
Text between Maggie and I.
And what day did they take place?
June the 6th.
June the 6th, 2021. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
At this time, the state would offer states 572 into evidence. No objection.
To admit without objection.
Yeah, he was like, well, what's all the other stuff he has that's running with it? I was like, I ain't getting on to that. Y'all can talk.
I was in a hotel,
And where, what city were,
Columbia, South Carolina.
and where?
Um, I'm not exactly sure where they were when they first started, but they would have been somewhere between a hotel, a restaurant, and the ball field.
All right. But when you sent this text on June 6th at 11:41 already, correct?
Yes, that's what I did say.
All right. And they say, yeah, Maggie says, yes, we like these seats. Is that correct?
All right, that's correct. I didn't notice that. So at that point in time, they are in the ballpark.
All right. And then you respond, better than last night. They extended checkout to
This
1.
is the day before.
Going to come then. Is that correct?
That's what that text says. Yes, sir.
All right. So you're right.
Yes, sir.
Later on, you text after she asked you to bring a charger and says, Muggy, you text, I'm dreading it. See you in a little bit. Is that correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
She responds, don't come, but then asks about the charger and says it's hot. Is that correct?
Mr. Waters, yes, I assume you were reading it exactly so. Yes, sir.
She eventually responds, not crowded, but not the place to come if you don't feel well. Very hot and muggy. We are inside, sitting at the bar, very nice indoors. Is that correct?
That's what it says. Yes, sir.
And then you respond, out by accident, they are making me leave, so I'll see you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who was making you leave where?
It was past checkout time at the hotel.
By the way, y'all remember that guy, Justin, who was putting out
It
all
appears
that
so.
crazy stuff about Dylan Mortensen being trans and and that Chief Fry from the Idaho
that
Police Department was
You were in that
arrested.
hotel suffering
Well,
from
if you didn't
withdrawals
hear about it,
when that's going on.
he
Is
put
that
out
correct?
all this
I was beginning to,
misinformation, and
yes,
now
sir.
he's retracting everything and
The reality
apologizing.
is that your wife and your son were on you at that time period, found pills just a few weeks prior.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Let's talk about June 7th, okay?
Yeah, he deleted everything off his pages, and he said,
You,
I have scrubbed
got
this
up that
page
morning.
of all things related to
What time do
Idaho.
you think
I
you got up and
redact
left?
everything I said. I am walking away.
After having the benefit of
And then
looking
on
at all these
Twitter,
records,
that was on
Um,
Facebook. On Twitter, he said, I apologize
I
to
don't know what
everyone
time
I
I
have
got
hurt.
up and looking
I
at the
never meant
records.
to do
Obviously, I've
so.
been up for a while.
I apologize to
Um,
those who I
but
have falsely
It appears I
accused.
left shortly after.
The only goal I ever had was to achieve
And you went to
justice
work?
and take the bad
I
guys
did, yes, sir.
down. I'm very
what were
sorry
you
for my
working on at work?
actions. I hope I can be
I was working
forgiven with
on,
time and re-earn your trust.
Dominion Energy case was primarily what I was working on.
He said he was hacked? No way.
We had motions coming up later in that
Wait, he
week.
said that someone
Um,
hacked his, or he's
as I said earlier, it
apologizing
was- I believed
because
at
somebody
the
hacked him and
time,
put out that information.
that it was the biggest case that I'd ever been involved in.
I was thinking that
and
too,
there were
Kate Brave.
motions
I
coming
think
up
he
in
was
that.
probably served for the cease and
I
desist.
was-
I mean, for
Danny
him to
then-
go, I mean,
Danny Henry that was
obviously couldn't
helping
have been
me with
hacked
this civil
because he went on as
case from the
himself
boat wreck
on
had been on
YouTube
me
and
about
put the
getting a financial
information out there.
statement,
But regardless,
and I
he
finished doing that so that it could be
he
given to
said he
Danny.
was working
It's
with
primary- it's
Brian
what I remember
Coburg's
doing.
defense
Obviously,
team, like,
I talked to
yeah,
him.
and that he had an inside source.
Yeah,
Like,
time to
he
leave.
And I'm sure
basically
I
had
did some
someone messaging him a
other
bunch of
routine
BS on Twitter, and he believed
office
it.
things, but I can't tell you what they are.
What time did you leave?
It appears that I left around a little after 6 from the records. I thought I'd
And-
left earlier than that, but I mean, the records seemed to be pretty clear.
All right. And you were, in fact, I think you said in both is that you were working on the boat. case
Same
that day as
same
well.
sentence. I hope to.
Your
I
financial
can't.
declaration.
Ugh, he irks my soul. That dude.
Yes.
I couldn't believe
prepared
what I
the
was
financial
watching when he put
declaration.
out
I
that
didn't do
video.
any work in this civil case. So my work is what I did. I prepared the financial statement, which took me a little bit of time to get the details on that. But I mean, that was the work I did in preparation for the motions coming up.
And what time did you get home?
And looking at the records, it looks like I got home a little before 7, 6:45, I think, 6:40 something.
And then you and Paul rode the property?
That's correct.
And you told law enforcement you shot a 22?
That's correct.
You told law enforcement that?
Exactly. I
Saw
hope
you
the
black
police
out?
department, because
That
you
I've
know
never
how they
seen a
said if you
blackout?
put out false information, they'll charge you. I wonder if they
No,
threatened
I
to
did
charge
not
him
see a blackout.
for saying that the chief of police was arrested.
Did you tell law enforcement that you and Paul were going around for hogs?
If I said that,
Go ahead.
and if I told them that, you don't look for hogs in the daytime. All right, the hogs are deep in the swamp. in the
He
daytime.
kept saying
So
F
I can
around
tell
and
you
find
that
out.
Paul
He
and
said
I
it
were
80
looking
times.
for
Like,
hogs.
F around and
But
find
what
out.
we were doing is we were going
F
from
around
food
and find
plot
out.
to
Come
food
on.
plot, and we were looking for
He was
hog
so
signs.
confident.
All right, what a hog will do is come out and root, and they tear up food plots. They tear up everything. And so That was one of the things we were doing, but not hog hunting. We were not looking for hogs. We did not have the
Took me a
300
second to
blackout with
realize
us.
you were playing on his
Paul didn't have
his
the gun that he-
favorite phrase.
That blackout that he favored with him while y'all rode the property.
The gun that's in here,
Any rifle.
there was no 300 blackout.
All y'all had was a 22.
And that was a 22 pistol, but we didn't have that with us at that time riding the property.
Right. And you testified, you've seen this.
Yeah, he
Snapchat
said Fry was a
video of
murderer
the
and that the FBI.
I've
I mean,
seen
he's the
that.
chief
You don't
police.
dispute the time of that video, do you?
I don't even know what time that was taken, but whatever the gentleman
that.
came and testified to, I don't dispute that.
All right. And what time? Well, let me ask you this. When
Oh, I
did
think they found.
back to the house?
Hold on, let me look.
Were you with Paul or were you by yourself?
I was by myself when I went back to the house. I went back to the house basically when Maggie got there.
When Maggie got there. All right. And where had Paul gone prior to that? Was he back at the house already or he came after you?
I was at the shop when I went back to the house.
All right. So you beat him to the house is what you're saying. Is that right?
I beat him to the house?
Yeah. You were at the house prior to him getting there.
Yes.
All right. And you say Maggie was there at the same time or there before you or there after you?
That's what I'm not absolutely certain about. I believe he came through the kennel entrance, and going back and looking at these records and these times, I believe she came through the kennel entrance while Paul and I were at shop. But
I'm not 100%
Either way,
sure, but I
I
think
got to
they
the
may have
house.
found him.
very shortly after Maggie got there. And I
Little boy in
believe
Florida.
that I went right behind
I'm
her.
gonna look in Twitter.
When did you take the shower that you've been talking about?
I believe when I first went in the house. I mean, I would have talked to Maggie for a second, but I'd seen her that morning, so I would
You left your clothes on the floor?
make sense to me given what Blanca's said, but I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
All right. About what time was that, you think?
And looking at the records, I think that was a little after 8.
And you're saying
When I got to the house,
yeah.
yeah,
And what did you do after that?
I came back out, sat out on the couch to eat dinner.
All right. What time was that?
A few minutes later, I mean, it didn't take me long to shower.
And you say Paul was already eating at that point?
He was.
You say he left first.
What I said is he got up and he finished eating, and he left our
Yeah, when
immediate
he's-
vicinity.
He's
Now,
flexing the forehead.
I don't believe he left at that point, given what I've looked at time records and all. I believe that he was around the house for a little bit longer,
And just to be clear, again,
but I didn't see him.
all of this detail was people were here today, like we talked about before, correct?
Say that again.
All of this detail that we're going through right now is not anything. that
So
you said
everyone's
before.
saying
All
he's
during
been
this period of
found.
time Yesterday.
Objection, Your Honor. Fifth Amendment privilege.
Objections overruled.
So yes, I enforcement. Actually, I don't think law enforcement asked me what I did when we first went to the house, but I clearly lied to enforcement about what I said yesterday.
Okay. And all of
I
this,
think
the last
so.
time you supposedly saw your wife and child, all of this detail, you as a lawyer and a prosecutor.
Pretty sure
didn't
he's
think that was
alive.
important to offer on your own?
Oh, I think it's important.
You told this jury how cooperative you've been and how much information you wanted to provide, but you left out the most important parts, didn't you?
I left out that. I sure did.
You don't consider that one of the most important parts?
Says
I think
1
it's
minute
important.
ago. Good news confirmed. Joshua J.J. Rowland has been found. He's scratched up but safe.
All right, tell me about what happens next. Tell me about how Maggie and Paul end up out.
Hey,
down at the kennels.
Pecan. Thank you.
I'm still not absolutely certain exactly how they ended up at the kennel, but in looking at the time
I'm
frames
so
and looking at
relieved.
the GPS points, pretty
Horrible,
well.
too, isn't he?
No,
Little
because I
kid.
wasn't sure
Them
if Maggie
curls.
had walked to the kennels
Mhm.
or ridden to the kennels, and I wasn't exactly sure how Pawpaw got there, but I'm all but certain that Maggie and Paul went to the kennel together.
All right. Discussion, you said that they were going down there, but you didn't want to go. Is that right?
Maggie, what I said is Maggie asked me to go to the kennels with her, and I wasn't going to go. I said, I'm not.
I know,
How
right?
long after she left did you supposedly go down there?
It was very quickly.
And what did you tell this jury and all these new facts as to the reason you changed your mind? Why'd you change your mind?
I just had a shower. When you go to the kennel, you always end up at the shop, dogs are running around, you're always going to end up doing more work. All right? It's hot. I'd already had a shower. I didn't want to go to the kennel
I understand that. So why'd you change your mind?
because Maggie wanted me to.
Mm-hmm.
Thought about it for a few minutes and then decided to go down
This
there?
is where it's
I
going
don't
to start
think
getting
I
good,
sat and
y'all.
Contemplated, am I going to go? Am I going to go? I think that, like many things Maggie wanted me to do, if I didn't do it at first, I ended up doing it.
And you took the golf cart down to the kennels?
That's correct.
How long did that take to drive from the house down to the
All right,
kennels?
so we
on a
took the
cart?
golf cart.
You know, in looking at the
Get my
star and all of that, it seems to take about a minute in the,
On a golf cart?
nope, in the Suburban. So I would think it's probably, in looking at those speeds of what, 20, 24 miles an hour, I would think it takes double that. I think it takes a couple minutes.
All right, so you'll concede at least a couple minutes to drive down there. Is
I
that
think,
right?
yes,
In a golf cart?
that's correct.
When kennel video was going on, had you arrived before that?
I believe that I had.
Okay. How long do you think you had been there before that was going on?
Not long, because when I got there, in looking at the kennel video, you can see Pawpaw standing in the kennel.
Alex, this ain't going to be good for you if
When
you're
I
saying
got
you
there,
just got there during
Pawpaw
that
wasn't
video.
standing in the kennel.
He wasn't in the kennel anymore?
Well, he wasn't in the kennel like
So you're telling
he
me
is in the
he
video.
drove?
Right.
He's
I'm
probably,
sure.
I don't know exactly, but I know he wasn't in the kennel. He was like in the
Look, here's
driveway.
my
He was
thing.
fooling with cash. He was in the driveway.
You're telling me he drove down to those
like
kennels.
close to the kennel, but not in the kennel like he is in the
And then
video.
just left?
So the
Drove
video
all the way
happened
down there
after
for no
that?
reason and left? So he got there
Video
right
happened
before that
after-
video.
After
So
you
when
first
did
saw
he
Paul,
leave?
you're saying he wasn't in the kennel. When did the video happen?
I believe that to be the case.
Okay. After you had arrived, is that correct?
Yes,
And,
very shortly after I arrived, but after I arrived.
all right. And did you tell Maggie at that time that you were going to go to Al?
I did not.
Did y'all discuss it at all?
Why not?
According to you, to these new facts you're testifying to?
You
I
were
don't
there
believe
with
so.
her.
Did you have any
30 miles
conversation
an
with
hour? All right, well,
Yeah.
that's good. We'll figure out the
Had you had a
distance,
conversation?
see
did
how
you have a
long it would
conversation
take
with
him.
Paul about the dogs, about Cash's tail going down there?
Prior to going down there? Did I have a conversation with Paul about
Yes. Did you talk to
cash?
him
It'll take
about
a few
Cash and
minutes.
some
If it
problem with
goes
his
30
tail
miles
prior
an
to
hour,
going
it
down
probably
there?
takes like a
Do you have
minute
any
and a
knowledge
half.
of that prior to going down?
I'm not sure. As I sit here today, I don't recall that, but I don't think so.
When you first arrived in the golf cart, where did you pull up to?
I pulled up right where Maggie was.
Which is where?
She was standing in the spot where she could see in between the chicken and the storage room of the kennels, where the dogs were back up in those planted pines behind the kennels to the left of the chicken coop.
And what'd you do after that?
I went back to the house.
Pulled up, you get out of the golf cart?
When I pulled up, I stayed on the golf cart.
No, he
Stayed on the
didn't.
golf
He
cart.
had the
How long did you stay on the
hose.
golf cart?
However long I was down there.
Who was using the hose then?
No, I got off to take the chicken from Bubba.
All right, so how long were you down there before you took the chicken off?
Very short time.
Like what?
Couple minutes,
And what were you doing during the couple minutes before you got over there to deal with Bubba?
talking to Mags.
All right. And what did y'all talk about?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, sir. I do know that Maggie was very concerned, and
Oh yeah, Devil, tell him he needs to show some leg on here.
You remember a lot of detail about all these new facts, but you don't remember what you talked about?
Although that's probably true, but
I don't
he gonna have
remember
if he wants the 4090s, he gonna have to
exact
show his
details
legs.
of what we talked about. I believe that at that time we may have talked Paw, but I'm not certain.
Were you withdrawing at this time?
At this time, no, sir.
You weren't withdrawing at all.
No. I mean, I would only withdraw when I didn't have pills.
And you're saying you had pills?
Yes.
Down there for a couple minutes, I think you've said now, before you get off the golf cart?
About, yes, sir.
All right. And where do you go at that point?
I take the chicken from Bubba.
Ask him who has the hose.
Well, I mean, Bubba's out there with this chicken. I mean, he's showing us, hey, I caught this chicken.
Maggie
And
just got a manicure. You think she's gonna
I
be
take
down
the
in the
chicken
kennels
from
with
Bubba.
that hose spraying things? No. And Paul didn't have the
Came up
hose
by the
because
golf
he was
cart.
taking a
Came up
video.
to Maggie and I, which I was on the golf cart. She's by the golf cart. I mean, he's not coming to the golf cart, but he's coming to us.
During the kennel video, or is this after the kennel video?
Well, no, you hear Maggie say he's got a chicken.
Okay.
That's what she's talking about is Bubba caught a chicken.
All right. All right. So is the kennel video still going on before you go get the chicken? I mean, you've heard it, correct? You've heard it in this courtroom.
I don't know. I don't know exactly, but in close timing to Bubba coming out of those woods with the chicken, I got up and took the chicken from him.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were the dogs barking and carrying on or going out into the woods or acting like they sensed somebody was around? That
Were the dogs acting like there was somebody around that they didn't know?
yeah, like dogs do.
No.
No, they weren't.
There was nobody
There was no
around that the dogs didn't know.
dogs didn't to your indication sense.
Get 'em,
anything
Creighton.
Out of the
Get 'em.
ordinary, they were just chasing out.
There was nobody else around
All right, good.
for them to sense.
You've heard the kennel video. Would you agree with me that it lasts for about 50 seconds?
I agree with that.
So it would have been 45 and 45 seconds. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Did you have the chicken out of Bubba's mouth at the end of the kennel video, or did it take longer than that?
You know, I can't remember exactly when in the video he came up with the chicken, but I would have had the chicken out of his mouth 10, 15 seconds of Maggie saying he's got a chicken.
All right. And so then what did you do?
I put the chicken up.
All right. How long did that take? Did you get out of the golf cart to do that?
I did.
All right. And you had to go walk to where it was?
Well, yeah, I mean, a few feet, but I did that, yes.
All right. And then
Seconds.
we're at 8:46.
Well-
How long did that take?
Seconds.
Just seconds? All
It's
right.
confusing
What did you do
because
after
the
that?
golf cart
Got back on the golf cart.
was parked in the pictures at the
What'd you do after that?
I left.
You left.
Now,
Just
did I
jumped
leave?
on the golf cart and left.
Well, that's what, did I get on the golf cart and leave that second? Probably not. But did I get on the golf cart and leave very quickly after that? I did.
Okay, yeah, I think you testified yesterday. I got out of there.
I did.
Why'd you get out of there so quick, Mr. Murdaugh?
Because it was chaotic. It was hot. Do exactly what I didn't want to do.
You were getting ready to do what you didn't want to do.
That's
What
correct.
does that mean?
I was getting ready to sweat.
Oh.
I was getting ready to work. I went back to the air conditioner.
So did you say goodbye?
Wow, I can't
According
believe
to
a 2-year-old got
story?
that far.
Did I say goodbye?
Yeah. Did you talk to them at all? Put it on there, jump on there, and
Oh,
just
no.
take off?
I wouldn't have just gone off. I mean, I would have said, I'm leaving.
Okay.
Did I say goodbye? Bye?
And again, go ahead.
I mean, there would have been some
So tell
you know,
me
there would've been
how,
some
in that short amount of
exchange.
all
I'm not
text
staying here.
What
and
was that
phone
exchange?
activity
You've had such a
ceased.
photographic memory about these new. What happened here?
at 8:50.
It's not. I can't tell you
So
the exact
that's like
words.
a
You don't
3-minute times, like three. If
Your
he left right
conversation
then,
after you
that's
put that
3
chicken-
minutes
did y'all
for
talk
people to
about the
come in and
chicken?
kill them.
No, I don't think we did.
Did you talk with Paul about Cash's tail?
After the chicken,
Yeah.
I know I didn't do that.
Did you tell Maggie I'm going to go check on him?
And he's full of
At that
crap
point,
because
no, I
Rogan
don't-
said
Did you tell
that
Maggie, it's hot out here. Think I'll go back?
Rogan said that he
I
heard
certainly would have said something to that effect.
he heard Alex on the call
Yeah.
before
Unlike everything else with the news story, you
Yeah,
just can't
Caitlin, he
recall
was
what,
found.
what that would have been.
the house,
You
just
know,
a little scratched up, but he's
You're
okay.
making that categorization. I think there's other things about that I can't remember. But if the question is, can I remember exactly what words I used when I gave Maggie some salutation when I'm leaving? I can't tell you what those were.
All right.
Something to the effect of, I'm leaving.
Okay, but you would concede that there was at least some conversation, that you wouldn't have just put the chicken on there and ran back to the golf cart and taken off. Correct?
For what?
Sorry, key
Just
bind
whatever
that. I
interaction
was
it
trying to
took for
type
you
in
to
chat
then,
and I hit a key bind.
According to
bind
your
that
news story,
stopped
drop
my
back
screen.
to.
No, sir. It wouldn't have taken me a minute. It would
Not
have
a minute.
been, it would have said, it would have been,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Kate.
I'm
Right, the
leaving.
time frame
I'll see you in
is
a
so
minute.
small.
Okay, so 30 seconds?
I don't think it would have taken 30 seconds. I mean, I'm fine with you using whatever time you want to apply, but I don't
I'm
think it
just
would have
asking
taken that
about
long.
real life here and how people interact with one another, Mr. Murdaugh. I mean, so what you're telling this jury, I call it, you're fuzzy on these kind of details, is
I'm gonna
that you
pin
jetted
this
down there and
comment
dealt with the chicken and jetted
so
right
people
back.
can see when they come.
No, no, sir. I didn't jet down there and I didn't jet back. I got up after Maggie asked me to leave, after Maggie asked me to go with her, and I didn't. I got up. I went and got on a golf cart. I drove down there. I did what I did. I said something to those words, and I went back.
All right. Well, if it's about 8:46, if the kennel video ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, and it's about 8:46, we at least concede that maybe it was about a minute before you got on that golf cart and headed back. Just reasonable real life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was that long, but maybe, sure.
All right. So
But I don't think it was that long. I mean,
all right, well, how long do you
exactly
think it
what I
was,
thought
Mr.
was going to be
Murdaugh?
going on at that kennel, why I didn't want to go there to begin with, is exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I get that.
And I left.
Are these also
Ooh,
convenient facts in your news
spicy.
story that have that evidence has been thrown in your face?
No, sir.
Does that sound like real life to you, that you jet down there and jet back, Mr. Murdaugh?
Mr. Waters, as I just told you, I didn't get on my golf cart and jet down there. I didn't jet back.
The
Those are
reason
your-
why you have to be
Hang
so
on now,
fuzzy
Mr.
about
Waters.
these
Just a second.
details.
Mr. Waters, hang on.
For another question presented.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Just a
answering your
moment.
question.
Just a moment. Are you responding to the last question?
Yes, sir. I'm responding to your question and you're using words that I'm not using. And that's your
Do you agree
categorization.
I'm entitled to ask my questions to you, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer them. All I'm saying is I'm taking issue with the manner in which you're changing what I'm saying.
Disagree this is a new story. You disagree with that characterization?
Yes, this is the first time that this is being told openly.
And you disagree to my characterization that you've got a photographic memory about the details that have to fit now that these facts, but you're fuzzy on the other stuff that complicates that. You disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. I think that I have a good memory about a lot of things on this.
How about this? We got Kim on video ending at 8:45:45.
Okay, Kayla.
So take care of the chicken, put it up. I was going to say 8:47, but somewhere around there. I think you said somewhere around there. Is that fair? Just to do whatever you need to do and get on that cart before you head back
The kennel video ended at 8:45,
in 45 seconds.
8:46. It would have been 8:47 before I left out of there.
Okay.
I think it was sooner than that, but it could have been.
All right. That's 60 seconds and 75 seconds, correct? After it ends.
If it ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, it's a minute and 15 seconds.
You characterized it yesterday as I got out of there, right?
That's exactly what I did.
All right. So if we're at 8:47, I think you said, giving you the benefit of the doubt, it's 2 minutes to get up back to the house, correct?
Approximately.
All right. And when you got back to the house, where'd you park the golf cart?
Same place I'd gotten it from, right where Mark said that it was.
All right. And what door did you go in?
I would have gone in the front door.
And if you left around 8:47 and it took about 2 minutes to get up to the house, what time would that make it?
If I left at 8:47, and if it took me 2 minutes, that would make it 8:49.
8:49.
So you're telling me
Testified you went
he
inside.
got back to the
and
house
TV's
and
on,
he
right?
didn't
I
hear,
did go inside.
No
The TV
gunshot?
was on.
Okay. And
but he heard a car
you
pull
laid
up.
down. Is that right?
I did.
All right. Before you said you'd been napping for an hour or so, or napping that entire time, but now you laid down on the couch.
That's correct.
All right. And maybe doze for a second. To your new story. How long did you doze?
If I dozed, extremely short time.
Extremely short time. Because you would agree with me that at 9:02,
Mhm.
you're up and moving, according to the data.
I agree that according to that data, my steps at whatever time it is, 9:02 something.
Mhm.
How long did it take you if you're at the house
Yes,
at
he took the
8:49?
golf cart back
How
to
long
the
before
house.
you went late on the couch?
So I'm
I would have gone
wondering
straight to the couch.
how
probably.
it
I
was
may have
parked
gone
at Moselle unless he
by the
drove it
sink
back
or
and forth
You know,
murders
but
after he found them. I don't
it would
know.
have been basically straight to the couch.
Straight to the couch.
Yes, sir.
Wait, did he just say he
And
took
you're
a
telling this
shower?
jury that that's what happened, and you were back at the house at 8:49, and you lay down on the couch and dozed for a second, and then you were with more steps in a shorter time period than you had done all day.
Get
Your
him!
number is 8:49. What I'm telling this jury is
He was
that
running at
I
this
went down
time.
there, and when I took that chicken from Bubba, I would have said something to Mags. I got back on that golf cart, and I drove back to my house. Back to my house, I went inside, and in short order, I went to the couch.
So how
what-
were you running?
I'm telling this jury.
Did you go anywhere else in the
Okay,
house?
okay, Bruce.
Mr. Waters, I can't tell you specifically about that. I don't think, but I may have.
Liar, liar, pants
Did
on
you have
fire.
that
He
tan
just caught
blackout
you in a
and a 12
trap.
gauge shotgun on that golf cart when you drove down there?
No,
You didn't?
no,
Did you see them when you were down there?
no.
No. So we got you back around 8:49 and you're leaving at 9:02, correct? And you there, you just happened to be back there. You didn't hear anything at all. Did you hear anything at all, Mr. Murdaugh, during that time period?
No, I did not.
You didn't? Didn't you tell law enforcement that you thought you heard them pull up? Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
I did think they had pulled up.
All right, so that was that. You did think that?
Yes.
All right. So now you're saying there was a car.
No,
You didn't testify to that yesterday, did you, in your new version of events that
no, I don't,
construct?
Mr. Waters, I don't believe there was a car pulling up.
Okay.
Why
But
did
that's
you
what
tell the
told law
police that
enforcement.
then?
No, I told law enforcement that I thought they had pulled up.
All right. But you're saying you couldn't hear blackout shots supposedly, but you could hear that.
I didn't say I couldn't hear blackout shots, but I'm saying that I thought when
He
I got
wasn't
up,
running around to get
from
that chicken, though.
taking
He
a
said
nap,
it would
if
take
I
him
took a
seconds to get it.
but when I got up from laying
He
down,
said he got off that golf cart and it would
as
have
I
took a
was
second for
getting
him to get
ready
it.
to go to my mom's,
So
there was a
none of
point in
this makes
time
sense. It's
where I
backwards
thought
as
Maggie and
shit.
Paul had come back.
You also told them that you thought you heard a wildcat, and maybe it was a person or something like that as well.
Creighton got him.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say then?
I said when I went outside that there's a house cat that's
Jim
that's gone
Griffin
wild,
looks stressed
and he
right
hangs
now.
around. He goes from hanging around the shop, goes from hanging around the house. Different times you might, and there'll be times you don't see him. And he had been around the house, and when I went outside, I believe that.
Okay. And you made a point of mentioning
I
that
never-
to law enforcement.
I never thought it was a person.
All right. But you made a point of mentioning that to law enforcement, correct?
In the course of discussing it, I did tell them
Both
that.
the guns are missing.
But you never told them all this new story that you've constructed in light of this trial. Is that correct?
I did not tell them. No, I lied about that.
And at the same time, you also looked at this jury and tried to tell them that you had been cooperative in this investigation.
Tell me how he was running
Other than lying
in
to
his steps if he went in the house and
them
laid on the
about
couch.
going to the kennel,
Such a liar.
I was cooperative in every investigation.
Very cooperative, except for maybe the most important fact of all, that you were at the murder scene with the victims just minutes before they died.
I don't
Right?
I don't think they've discussed the
I did not
silencer
tell them that I
missing. Not
went
that
to the kennel.
I don't remember that, but I'm not sure. Like I don't know. I recall hearing about a silencer though.
We'll take a break at this time for about 15 minutes, talking to the jury. Please go to the jury room. Please not discuss the case.
He's gonna regret this. Yeah, he admitted that he told that he never went to the kennels, but he was there. He said, I lied. I was at
Do
the
not
kennels.
Discuss your testimony
So
with
now
anyone during the
He
break.
places himself at the
We'll
kennel.
be in recess for
He says
15
Maggie asked him
minutes.
to go down there. Hold up. I'm going to go over everything that doesn't make sense. He asked, 15-minute break so he can change his underwear. So he lies about going to the kennels. He admits that he lied. He says he drove the golf cart down. Got there around 8:40. He has to be there right before us, because if he says he got there right at 8:44, he's lying, because Rogan heard him in the phone call before that video. So he had to have gotten there around 8:42. Then during the video, which is at this video, At 8:44.
So now it places him in this kind of limited time frame, because the other suggestion would be someone was waiting for him to leave to kill Paul and Maggie. Why they didn't want to kill him would be a separate question. And he just said, he didn't hear anybody around there. Now, again, taking aside whether he doesn't.
He said he heard a car to the police, but now he doesn't hear a car.
Important pieces
And
of evidence for the
explain
prosecution.
how he was running. They have him he was running at a jogging pace with his steps, but yet he claims he went back and laid on the couch. Yeah, it's no way. He's so stupid for putting himself in this corner, because there's literally like a 3-minute timeline. Like, you're telling me, and what's the point? Why would you go all the way down there for 5 minutes? I mean, it's a long drive. It would kind of be stupid to drive the golf cart down there for 2 minutes. I mean, it's not long. It's like a minute drive, but still. I don't know. I can't. None of it makes sense to me. And then when you're down there, it's like a minute drive with the golf cart. No, I don't think it would count as your phone's able to tell, like, if you're driving or you're walking. It can tell by like how, like, your bounce, I guess. Like in steps. He was running. For sure. But yeah, I've never heard about a missing silencer. And here's my thing. All right. Explain to me how somebody could get on this property. All right. So just think about this. Alex leaves, right? Then somebody shows up. He's waiting for Alex to leave. Why not kill Alex? I don't know. Why just these two? I don't know. But they come on. Alex leaves. How to get there? Sneak up. Get Paul's guns. And shoot them both with 2 different guns. And it be like the way it is, because it would have to have been like somebody they know or felt comfortable for the people to get on the property and get so close to them that they can take a gun, take Paul's gun and kill them with it. So done. 420 growers, so done. Yeah, it's crazy to me, because I just can't see how anyone else would be able to get, like, sneak on this property without, and you were coming as like an assassin. I understand why you would want to use somebody else's guns, but it would be pretty risky showing up to your enemy's house that has a bunch of guns and a bunch of dogs unarmed. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. The cousin made the replacement gun that Maggie paid for. And Buster said that Paul borrowed his after it was stolen, and they never seen a replacement. I don't think it was stolen. I don't know, but it was a dumb idea for sure. Like, so stupid. He just put him. How did he not see this trap coming? Like, he just narrowed this time frame down so small. Like,
Worst thing against him in this case.
there's not there all
Jesse and
at
Richard, listen,
8:50.
I'm playing
He
devil's
would have
advocate
still
here to some
been
degree.
driving on the golf
Clearly,
cart.
the prosecutors have brought a case that is
Like, when it
reliable
happened, I would
and
think.
has some sustenance. What I'm suggesting, just touched on this, we have two different murder weapons. Neither one of them have been
Not only
recovered.
that, but they're hunters. He
And
would have known the sound
they're
of a
clearly, I mean,
gun
it's
firing.
if we're going to speculate,
And
let's
not only
speculate.
that,
there
but
was this issue going on
one,
with the young
two,
woman
about
who
10
died,
shots. You're
unfortunately
gonna
and
tell me
very
you don't hear
tragically.
10 gunshots?
And, people sincere about trying to hold people accountable for that death. So again, guys, I'm not, I'm playing devil's advocate right
Sure.
now, but what I suggest to you is that we have a drug addict who is under extreme stress. We have
Yeah.
really no motive. And they've I wouldn't say they've created a motive. That the motive is supposedly he wanted to distract from his own situation. What I would suggest to you is, father, and I don't know if you guys are, that's a reach for me.
So I agree with you. Unfortunately, the job that I have, I see family members killing family members in brutal fashion. And sometimes the victims are much younger than the ones we have here. And so nothing really would shock me. I guess, Rich, the thing that I'm wondering now is, what does Jim Griffin do when he has the opportunity to redirect? Because you have a client
I get what
who's
they're
admitted
saying
to
about
lying.
motive,
You have a
but
client who's admitted to
you
stealing.
also have to
You
keep
have a
in
client
mind
who's admitting about all
that
of these things. And now
Maggie
it becomes
owned
a question of how do
Moselle
you rehabilitate his image? Because
outright
yesterday,
and
when
had
he came forward, it was
they
quite
found the
emotional.
baby
I thought it might give the jury
and
pause. So what do
had
you think needs to happen to redirect?
Maggie
I think you want to get back to that on redirect.
had been
Return
able,
to
if
the
how
emotion.
Maggie
I think
passed,
those
he
were the
inherits
high points
Moselle,
of
and
his
then he
direct in
could
the
sell
first
it,
place, when he got very
and them
emotional
dying
about his
would
wife and his
create
son.
time for him
And people said
to
some of
get
the
that
jurors were
money
tearing up over that. So he may have
and
connected on
put
the
it in
point.
an account.
That's what they want to return to.
So
By the way, I
when
think
they started
we
catching
saw
on to
extensive
his,
cross-examination.
he was already confronted
yesterday.
about the
I
money, so
think
he
the
knows
prosecution did
they're
that
onto him
in
that day.
order to put a confession on each of those crimes on
Not only
the
that, he was
record
doing
out of Alex
cocaine. I mean, the
Murdaugh's
guy
mouth.
is
Because win or lose this trial, they're still prosecuting him for all those financial crimes.
you got to understand
and
how
getting
much
him to admit
pressure
them
he was
under oath
probably
will-
under, and how
So basically,
how
he
many
killed two
people,
birds with one stone.
if
Had
he would have gotten caught,
he basically walked himself to prison with those.
or like have
Absolutely.
All right,
they
well,
catch him
we are going to talk
lying
more
about this
this, and we're
money, and the
also going to
money's
jump
not
live
there
once
when they
again
need
in the
it.
Alex Murdaugh trial.
He's
with
bringing
more
not only
defendants.
him but many people down with him, and he knew that. So I think that's a good motive, actually, because he thinks he's going to get the money from his dad's inheritance, and he knows that since his dad is dying, that Maggie's and go to him, and then he sell it, and then he gets $4.3 million back that he can say, here's the money. I didn't steal from people. It was just sitting in this account, blah, 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 I agree. I think Alex took with him, but then he seen that Paul's shotgun was near Paul, and that it was too risky to pull out a gun on Paul and think Paul might grab that shotgun, bring it back. So I think he felt like he had to take that gun from Paul to keep from getting Paul to shoot at him. So I think that he took that shotgun, and I think he put the shotgun and the blackout on the ATV, right? I think he, like he says, shoots Paul head on, standing up, leans down in the ATV, shoots him again, I guess maybe a backfire. He goes down a little bit, leans on the ATV, shoots him again from low or sitting in the ATV. Then he drives the ATV forward, Maggie's leg with it, or he shoots Maggie, she falls, drives up, touches Maggie's leg with it, and then you know how they say like he circles her, gets out of the ATV, circles, shoots her a few times, gets back in the ATV and drives to the house. Sorry, the golf cart. There was literally tire tracks on her calf. I feel like the tire tracks happened after she fell, because why else would there be tire tracks? I don't think he ran her over. I think he stopped right at her calf. But the problem with that is he said he didn't any money. The cop specifically asked him that several times in interviews, like, did you owe anybody money? Did you have any issues? He said no, he didn't have any issues with anybody. And I feel like the Dixie Mafia would have brought their own guns. Yeah, she tire treads on her calf. Now, it wasn't, they said it wasn't like she was run over, like she wasn't like smushed. It was just like as if the tire had touched her calf and left like an imprint on it. So I think after he shot her and she fell, he pulled that gun up and tapped her, like tapped over her leg with it, shot her, circled her, whatever, after she was already down, and then drove back up. It makes even more sense now that he's putting himself on the golf cart, because that explains how he was lower and how the shots came from lower down and why there was a tire track on her leg. At this point, well, it was summertime, so it was probably just getting dark. Or yeah, it was probably getting dark at this point, I would think. 8:50, it would, right? It would be pretty dark by that point in the summer, in June.
Back, everybody. So we're waiting to jump live once again into Walterboro, South Carolina for the continuation of Alex Murdaugh's testimony in that courtroom feed. But right now, the jury's taking a morning break. So while that happens, it gives us an opportunity to look back at some of his testimony from earlier today when he was asked about the kennel video, the video that places him at the crime scene minutes before when prosecutors say the murders happened, a video that he says and now admits he's on. This was him under cross.
The kennel video was going on. Had you arrived before that?
I believe that I had.
Okay. How long do you think you had been there before that was going on?
Not long. Because when I got there and looking at the kennel video,
yeah, he wouldn't be able to see.
Standing in the kennel. When I got there, Pawpaw wasn't standing in the kennel.
He wasn't in the kennel anymore?
Well, he wasn't in the kennel like he is in the video.
Right.
He's probably, and I don't know exactly, but I know he wasn't in the kennel. He was like in the driveway. He was fooling with cash. He was in the driveway, but like close to the kennel, but not in the kennel like he is in the video.
So the video happened after that, according to you?
Yep. I think he had a bag. I think he took off his clothes, and I think he sprayed himself down with that hose that he already had out. You can hear someone using the hose.
Yes.
And it wasn't Paul, and I doubt
Very
Maggie
shortly
would be
after I
messing with the
arrived,
hose
but after I arrived.
after she just got a
Did
magnet
you
of
tell Maggie at that time that you were going to go to Alameda?
I did not.
Did y'all discuss it at all, according to you, to these new facts you're testifying to?
I don't believe so.
Did you have any conversation with her?
Oh, yeah.
Had you had a conversation, did you have a conversation with Paul about the dog's tail prior to going down there?
prior to going down there? Did I have a conversation with Paul about
Yes, did you talk to
cash?
him about cash and some problem with his tail prior to going down there? Did you have any knowledge of that prior to going down?
As I sit here today, I don't recall that, but I don't think so.
Okay, so Jamie, as we wait to jump back live, you had made the point that it's kind of hard to ask him what he remembers and what he doesn't remember. He might not be the most reliable narrator, given
Last
substance
moment
abuse
with your
issues that he was talking
family.
about. It is curious,
I don't
though,
agree
that
with
he
that.
seems to remember certain things and then maybe conveniently doesn't remember other things.
Yeah.
How do you think his defense attorney needs to clean that up?
So I think falling on your sword a little bit more so than I think he's been, and again, Jesse and Richard, I'm playing devil's advocate here. There's clearly some issues that the jury's going to have to sort through.
Creighton
But I
needed
think
this for
falling on your
sure.
sword
I mean, this
to
was a good
more of a
trial.
degree,
For sure.
they always say that the lawyer is their own worst client, and this guy is a very legendary, talented attorney in his own right. And I think that maybe just conceding that you don't know everything that occurred will be helpful to him and the jury. Because to your point, Jesse, saying I know exactly what happened, but at the same time relying on some sort of excuse that you were intoxicated and you were going through this lifestyle, they're inconsistent.
Yep.
And I think the jury's going to struggle with that.
Okay, so Rich, I move it over to you because one of the things that you've been talking about is the financial crimes. And what Alex Murdaugh seemed to suggest was life wasn't about to be exposed on June 7th, 2021. There wasn't this danger that Paul and Maggie knew about his drug problems well before that. So it wasn't like he was trying to cover anything up. There would be no reason for him to kill his family. And I will tell you, I think, that could be a struggle for the jurors as well about why he would do this. What do you think about that?
So I think Alex Murdaugh has helped piece this motive theory together because the prosecution has laid the predicates that he was a drug addict and that he had severe financial problems. And you and I and many people have struggled. How does that get you to shoot your son in the face? Big step. But Alex Murdaugh on the stand has testified under oath that he suffered from paranoia. And he said yesterday the reason he lied to law enforcement about the kennel video was because he was paranoid, because he was afraid of law enforcement. By the way, he was afraid of law enforcement. He worked in law enforcement. His family worked in law enforcement for decades. But putting that aside, he's got extreme paranoia. And that is why he lied about the kennel video. Couldn't it also be part of the motive? Drug addiction plus financial catastrophe plus paranoia equals motive. That to me is a formula that might carry the day.
You might be right. And I'll tell you, what's interesting, you have to imagine, Jamie, his attorneys didn't want him to do this. As soon as they know that he was going to.
So I looked up the sunset times that day, and it said basically at like 9:02
more than that
was just going
not guilty.
like when it got dark.
He admitted in open
Like
court.
it was just going down.
That
So
back and
it was
forth
probably
between what a client
pretty
wants
dark
to do
by then.
versus what his attorneys recommend. Walk us through that.
Again, attorneys are their own worst client. I suspect that,
But not like
him off the record and probably on the record to the extent that we weren't able to see this. But Jesse, let me throw this out there. Conceding that he had these problems in his personal life, does it open him up for empathy when we're looking at whether or not, again, to Richard's point, shooting your son in the face? I think that the alternative is to sit silent, which I probably would have recommended that he do. But the alternative is to sit silent, and the jury has to kind of this ambiguous, I don't want to say ambiguous, but this theory of the prosecuting attorney. So I think it cuts both ways. I just think when we look at the standard, when we look at the burden of proof, I think the prosecutor has a little challenge here. It only takes one, and I any evidence to get me to beyond a reasonable doubt. There's an extraordinary circumstantial hill that's been created and it's been articulated by the prosecuting attorney, but 2 guns, Jesse, 2 guns.
So look, I'm struggling with this case every day, Rich. I mean, I struggle with. I look at it and I say the investigation, the police work was incredibly sloppy. Okay, I think we can agree to that. There are these deficits in the prosecution's case, like we talked about a lack of certain forensics that would be key, a kind of shaky motive, no murder weapons recovered. But there are these details that are best, and it's really hard to think it's somebody else who did it. And Alex Murdaugh is burying himself, so it just feels to me that this is still going to be a hung jury.
It's going to be very close. If the prosecution loses this case, it's going to be.
Remind everyone in the courtroom that there's to be no reaction to the testimony. No jeers, cheers, no reaction at all by anyone.
They got on him about that badge yesterday, him wearing the badge. He had that badge on.
You bring the jury.
He wore the badge in the.
Before the jury comes in.
All right, so
There'll be
he
an
had a
opportunity
badge.
to put something on the record. If it's regarding an objection, it can be done later.
Yes, sir.
All right, so he had a badge for being a volunteer solicitor, and he wore that police badge visible on his pants the night at the hospital and the Mallory Beach thing, so he could go in these kids' rooms and talk to them because he had a police badge on and get ahead of it, of course. You can clearly see in the CCTV footage of him in the hospital, he got the badge hanging from his pocket so people could see it. Let me pull up that picture. I'll show you guys real quick. While we're waiting for them.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Oh, wait, where is it? God damn it. I don't know where I put it.
When you picked up that chicken, was there any blood on it?
I don't believe so.
Did you wash your hands or all?
At that point in time, I don't believe that I did.
When you say you were there, you said Maggie was nearby you. Is that correct?
Right by me.
Was she messing with the hose at all?
At that time, no, she was not.
Did she mess with it the entire time that you were there, according to your new facts today?
While I was there, she did not touch. She was not fooling with a hose at all.
So who had the hose then? Thank you, Creighton. That's what I've been waiting for. Who had the damn hose? You could hear the hose on.
Move this thing along.
Yep. Exactly, 420 growers. Who was using the hose? What I've been saying all along.
I'm gonna put up on the screen states 519, which is the condensed timeline. If I could have a computer in.
Linda cracks me up. And hey, there's good and bad cops in everywhere you go. I mean, you see right here, you think you could trust, a prosecutor, a guy
See
who
the date's
volunteers
timeline,
as a
Mr. Griffin?
prosecutor. And here he's the dirtiest, scummiest person in town.
All right.
This man was prosecuting cases and helping innocent
See
people.
that up there, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes.
All right, I'm on page 5. You see that cell tower map there?
That's up on my screen.
Yeah.
I do see that.
Would you agree with me that it reflects no cell tower activity on your phone from 6:52 to 9:04?
I do agree with that.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Murdaugh. Did you take your phone with you down to the kennels according to the new facts that you testified to yesterday?
I must not have.
You must not have.
If this is accurate, no, sir.
Is that typical for you?
Sure it is. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Tell me
if
why
your
that's typical.
phone
If and when I'm going, now, it wouldn't be, it
Wasn't
would be
with
unusual
you.
if I was going out for any extended period of time.
then
If I
you
was
were
going,
running when you got back to the
even on
house,
the
not laying.
somewhere for an extended period of time, I would usually have my phone. But for me to go, knowing that I'm going to the kennel and coming right back, that's not unusual
Right,
at all.
Bubba must have been
I mean,
using the
there's
hose.
you've heard the testimony about the service out there. The service is terrible. You have to be in a particular spot.
All right, so explain your steps then.
On the
House
spot.
and your foot. Well,
So,
the watch
The
maybe.
answer
You had
is
a
you
watch
don't know
on?
whether or not you took it down there
If you had a
I
watch
believe
on,
that I
would do its
probably
best.
didn't based on this data.
based on this, but unlike your photographic memory about other things, you don't remember whether or not you had your phone on you.
Mr. Waters, I've never claimed to have a photographic memory, but I do not specifically remember if I had my phone that night. I do not dispute it based on this data, and that's not unusual for me.
Just like you don't remember, according to your new story, the last conversation you had with Maggie.
No, I remember having my last conversation with Maggie.
Looking at this screen, you have the map up there. We're on page 6, and it shows you arriving back at Moselle at 6:42. You don't dispute that now, is that correct?
No, that's what this data appears to show.
And looking at the data, moving on to page 7, you have Paul arriving about 7:04. Is that correct? You don't have any reason to dispute that?
Well, that's what it says. He arrives at 4147 Moselle Road, which is the address of the shop. The house is 4157. I believe that Paul actually got there a little bit before that, but I think that's approximately accurate. I think Paul got there a little bit closer to 7 o'clock.
All right. You would agree that that's the earliest data point that reflects his presence in Moselle?
If that's what the records show.
You don't dispute that?
I don't dispute that if that's the earliest data point. But again, I believe he got there a little bit earlier. And I tried to look at these records to see if if that could be refuted. And I believe he got closer to 7 or a little bit before 7.
No, that's a good point. You looked at these records a lot before you had your testimony yesterday and today, didn't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
I've looked at these records other than the OnStar records that just came when they were provided to me. Sure, I've looked at
You
them.
looked at 'em.
Right here, we have some steps on your phone, 29 steps. And then down at the bottom, we have 89 steps. Is that consistent when you and Paul were together on the property?
Well,
And
Cal,
sure, we would go
got
to
it, a lot of new
different
stuff.
locations on the property. Sometimes we would get out.
He
Sometimes we
says
wouldn't. We'd get out and walk around. We'd look at stuff.
he
We'd do
went to
things.
the
For
kennels.
example, you saw me messing with the
Got
tree.
there
There'd be other ones,
couple
we may get out and look at a
minutes
feeder.
before
Maybe
Paul
other
was
ones we get
doing
out
his
and look at
video.
hog signs where
And
hogs are
that he
rooting.
left
So
there around
it
8:47.
would be
and he was
perfectly
only
consistent
there
with
5-6 minutes because
what
he
Paul and I
left
were doing that
because he
day.
doesn't like to sweat. He says he probably got around 8:49 and that he laid down on the couch, even
And
though that didn't
8:05
show him as
to
running at the time.
8:09. Would you agree that that's the last steps recorded on your phone before 9:02 when you become a very busy bee?
Him hearing
If that's
the
what
car
these
pull up.
records show,
That
I
was a
see I
lot.
took steps, his records show I took steps between 8:05 and 8:09.
So would you concede then that you're at the house around 8:09?
I would have thought so, yes.
Okay. And you said Paul was already back at that point?
No, I said just, all
When did he get there?
right. You talking about when I left the shop and went to the house when Maggie was there?
Yes, before you ate dinner.
No, as I said earlier, Paul and I were at the shop. Maggie got home. I left Paul at the shop and I went to the house. I think you were saying that I said I met Paul at the house, and that's incorrect.
Paul was still down at the shop when you were at the house, correct?
When I first went to the house, Paul was still at the shop, I believe.
All right. And was Maggie there when you arrived at the house?
Yes, I believe she was.
All right. And 8:09 is the last steps that you have on this phone before 9:02, correct?
That's what the data shows.
Looking now at page 15. I'm sorry, page 14.
Timeline is so tight too.
Your
And if
steps,
somebody wanted to
Did you
kill
say
Paul,
when you got to the house, it's 8:09 and
why
Paul
would
was
they
still down
kill
at the
Paul
shop?
and Maggie and not
Don't
Alex?
these records reflect that Paul is pinging
I mean,
with
if you're
GPS data at the
murdering
house at 8:08?
People, what's the difference if you murder a third? I mean, you're going to jail. For
This
the
record
next,
appears
right?
to show Paul at the house at 8:08.
All right. So those records don't fit with your new story that you testified yesterday and today. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe even right now, Mr. Waters, that that's right. I'm not saying, what you're doing is you're taking 8:09 and saying that I'm at the house. And I mean, that may or may not be right, but what I'm saying is that when I left, and I believe that Paul stayed at the shop. Now, did Paul come right behind me? I'm not sure, but when I left him, I believe that when I left to go to the house, I believe that Paul stayed at the shop for a minute.
When you got to the house, did you put your phone down?
I'm sure I did.
Did you put it in the car, in the Suburban?
Did I put it in the Suburban?
When you got back to the house, did you put it in the Suburban? Was the Suburban parked out front?
The Suburban would have been parked wherever I parked it.
Which is where?
I believe on the side.
Okay. And did you put your phone in the Suburban?
At that time?
Mhm.
No, I did not.
Where'd you put it?
I'm not sure where I put it.
You're not sure about that either, huh?
No, I'm not sure. When I went in the house, I'm not sure where I put my phone. I would think that I put it down somewhere, probably by the couch.
Yesterday, when you were being asked by your lawyer about that pause at Alameda when you were leaving, and you had a very specific recollection of your phone had fallen down in the crevice and you had to pick it up and get it out. You remember testifying to that?
I do.
But you don't remember what you did with your phone when you got back at this point, huh?
I mean, Mr. Ward, those are two distinct, different things. I'm coming in the house. I don't have a routine spot that I put it in right on this corner or right there. You know,
Yeah.
I would assume that when I went in the house, I put it somewhere either on the table you go by, going to the couch. I may have taken it to the bathroom. When I took a shower, it may have taken me a
Oh, that's so good. He's all right.
few minutes to go to the shower. I can't tell you exactly where I put it.
That gospel story is an awful specific recollection when you need it to try to make the new story that this jury's hearing and everyone's hearing yesterday and today with the data, correct? but you're awful fuzzy on far more important things, aren't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
Which question? Here, I'll answer the first one first. No,
Yes, the first one first and second second.
I don't believe that's convenient, and I disagree with your categorization of the description.
All right, but you remember the console story, but you don't remember where you put your phone, whether or not you took it down to the kennels, whether it was in, you put it in the Suburban, don't remember any of that, but dadgummit, you remember that console story, correct?
Well, I don't remember the console story, but, you know, in that Suburban, and it's not the first time that it happened, but when that phone got down there, you had to go to great efforts to get it out, and you couldn't just reach over there and get it out.
All right, you say when you got to the house that Maggie was already there?
Yes.
Okay. And we saw your last steps were at 8:09?
Well, that's what you saw when this data recorded my last steps, but as you heard this testimony too, Mr. Waters, you know, that's not a precise, that's not a precise, you heard the testimony, you know what it is.
Well, how did you get back to the house? Remind us.
From the shop?
Yeah.
I went in a white pickup truck.
Went in the white pickup truck? Okay. And when you got into the house, where did you go?
We've already discussed this. I took a shower, whether I did things for a moment before I went to the shower. I'm sure I talked to Maggie because she'd been gone. And if she came through the kennel, which I believe she did, we only talked briefly. So I would have talked to her, but I would have quickly gone to take a shower.
Okay.
All right. So Suburban parked on this house and
Going over to
he came
page
back to
16.
the house in the white pickup truck.
You would agree with me that the data reflects Maggie start logging steps and her phone disconnecting from the Mercedes around 8:17, correct?
So how do we know?
I agree.
who
At
drives the white
8:17,
pickup
her-
truck?
to her Mercedes.
And starts logging steps.
I don't see that, but I don't dispute it.
Well, you see the purple line
Wonder
talking
if
about
the
it
white
disconnecting
pickup
from the
was
Mercedes.
I
and
do
then you
see,
go
I
down
see,
to-
I see where you're talking about. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. 8:17, her phone starts logging steps. I agree with that.
Okay. So would you concede that that appears to be when she arrived?
No, when she arrived. I believe that, I mean, it was very normal for Maggie, when she's driving to jump out of the car, run inside, go to the bathroom, do things, and either send me or Paul or go back or Buster or go back to her car herself and unplug her phone. So, I mean, I agree that's when her phone's unplugged, but I believe that Maggie got to the house a little bit before that. That's the whole reason why Paul and I went to the house.
Okay. But you're saying Paul arrived after Maggie, is that what you're saying? At the house? at
I
this
believe
point,
so,
correct?
yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I recall. And Paul arrived at the house after I arrived at the house, I believe. And if Paul got to the house around about that same time, he wasn't inside with Maggie and I when I went to
8:08?
get to the shower.
So you say if Paul got inside with Maggie and you? Is that what you said? Mr. Murdaugh, is that what you said?
Sir,
You said if Paul got the house prior to that, he wasn't inside with you and Maggie? Is that what you said?
I'm saying he was not inside when I went to get in the shower.
You're full
Okay.
of crap. Be conversation
at
with
that point-
Paul about his swollen feet.
808, we see a little blue dot right there in the middle of the house, don't we?
Yeah, that's what these records show.
Okay.
And it also shows that circle that what it could
Yeah, absolutely.
be within. So, I mean, it clearly could
Look
be.
at that circle. Look at what's right in the middle of that circle. Almost like somebody drew a circle around the house, don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. But also in that circle is where you would park a truck if you pulled up. And I'm not saying that he wasn't in the house at some point in time there, but when I went to get in the shower, he wasn't in the house. And he very easily could have been there and been parked in the yard.
All right.
Right? Is it just me, or didn't he tell the police that him and Maggie and Paul all had dinner together and that they talked to
You
Paul
agree
about
on page 16 that
his what's it called?
about 8:30, Maggie starts tracking steps again on her phone?
Yes, sir. That's what the data shows.
His high blood pressure.
Oops, hit the wrong button. And you would agree with me that about 8:38, Paul's phone shows him back up at the kennels.
Well, yes, sir. I agree that at 8:38, let me see which one. It's hard for me to figure out which one of these rings, but at 8:38, it shows Paul in whichever one of those rings is 55. And I have no reason to believe he wasn't at the kennel.
And then 8:44:55, we've already gone through this, but that's the kennel video, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you would agree with me that it lasts about 50.
Yes, sir, I agree with that.
And you would agree with me, moving on to page 19, that both Maggie and Paul's phones locked for the final time around 8:49.
That's what the data shows.
After that, you agree that Maggie's phone around 8:53 shows some steps being taken?
That's what the data shows, yes, sir.
Data doesn't show who's carrying it, but that's what it shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you would agree with me that from 9:02 to 9:06, your phone finally comes to life and starts showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. Get ready to go to your mom's house.
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect, but I was getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
Doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
That's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the test. What were you so busy doing?
That's
Going to the bathroom?
no, I don't think that I
Get on a
went to
treadmill?
the bathroom. No, I didn't get on a treadmill.
Jogging place?
Nope, I didn't jog in
Jumping
place.
jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh?
Jumping jacks.
Preparing to leave for my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room, went back in the,
Doing what? You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. But specifically what I was doing, I don't know. I know what I wasn't doing, Mr. Waters, and what I wasn't doing is doing anything, as I believe you've implied, that I was cleaning off or washing off guns, putting guns in a raincoat, and I can promise you any of that.
Okay. Also, during this 4 minutes where you've got 283 steps.
It doesn't make no sense, though. The story makes no sense. He was
Not only
literally
are you moving around
running
a
it.
lot, but you're making a ton of phone calls because that in that same time period, you see this red line right here, where over that 4 minute period, all those steps were taken. That's also when you're calling phone calls, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, I made the
So are
phone
you running in
calls.
place and making phone calls? Is that what you're?
Be allowed to answer before Mr. Waters steps on him again with another question. Please. Thank you.
All right.
You were making all these phone calls while you were taking all these steps. Would you concede that? Where you don't remember what you were doing?
Well, I was making phone calls and that shown here at 9:05, I called my dad. You know, I don't know that I was taking steps like you're saying I'm taking. I heard the same testimony you heard, Mr. Waters, and, you know, steps can be recorded any number of ways. I don't have a specific recollection of walking around. I don't know if I was hitting my phone like the guy showed or doing whatever that makes steps, but you know.
So you were hitting your phone like that while you were making all these phone calls?
Hang on, no, sir. What I'm saying, Mr. Waters, I don't know that. You an example. You're saying that I'm running around taking these steps, and while I'm doing that, I'm making telephone calls. What I will agree with is that this data shows that there was 283 steps recorded on my phone. And sometime during that period.
That's a lot of steps. Just be laying on the couch
Okay.
and getting up and
All right, so
going to
not
your
only,
car.
for whatever it is recording steps, but you're also making a ton of phone calls, including
And it's
missed
at a very
calls
fast pace.
to Maggie, who is 1,100 feet away, supposedly.
You're using phone calls.
Yeah.
What I agree is that I made the phone calls that are listed on these call data records, which, you know, are very normal phone calls for me.
Do you know why so many phone calls were missing from the log time period when law enforcement downloaded your phone on June 10th?
From my phone?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Did you delete them, Mr. Murdaugh?
Not intentionally.
Good question.
Just around the time of June 7th, all these calls are missing, but you had nothing to do with that between June 7th and June 10th.
How do you accidentally
No, sir, I
delete,
did-
like,
I did
phone
not
calls?
delete phone calls from my phone. Mr. Waters, one of the most important things in this whole thing for me has been getting this data that I believe would exist. Phone calls and phone records would be part of that. I've been in enough civil cases and records enough times to know that you delete a phone call from your phone, it doesn't disappear. So I can tell you, this jury, and everybody who's listening, that I did not intentionally delete phone calls from my phone.
Yeah, because you
Well-
started talking about your former prosecutor.
Correct.
He
and
might
former
have
lawyer doing
at the
civil cases. We
time
went through that
to-
yesterday.
To
Boy, you're busy being
look
on that phone right out of the gate at
immediately
9:02,
not as
right?
a suspect to be like, here, yeah, search my phone, you know,
Objections overruled.
and his
Am I a
paranoia.
busy bee?
Yeah.
I am using my telephone. I think I call at 9:05, I start and call my dad, and I agree that I made other phone calls.
And one of the first things you start talking about with law enforcement is these calls that you made to Maggie. Correct? You recall that from your first statement to law enforcement?
One of the, I said to law enforcement,
Yeah, that's one of the things you talk about. I'm talking about with your interview with Special Agent Dave Owen.
Maybe Linda.
I don't remember that being the first thing we talked about, but
First things.
if Mr. Owens asked me about it, then
No, you brought
Sure.
it up, didn't you?
I did. No, I don't recall.
Would you dispute me if I said you brought it up?
That I brought up, what, brought up
Your
what?
phone, Mr. Murdaugh, your phone.
Phone calls to Maggie?
Yes.
That I brought up phone calls to Maggie to David Owens.
I'm asking you, is that one of the things that you talked about in your first interview
Yeah,
with
but
David?
he already like, yeah,
If
sure.
you
pick
pulled
my
out your phone
take
and
this,
started
pick
looking at it, that you
looked
brought
like
that up.
he
You recall
was
that?
Well,
cooperating.
but that's not what you asked, Mr. Owens.
I feel
You
like
asked me, was that the first
even
thing
though
that I
he
talked to
knows
him
they're
about?
gonna
And that
find
was
that
the
out, maybe
discrepancy.
at the
I
present
certainly
time
don't dispute
to
that
look
Mr. Owens and I
cooperative
talked
before they
about
did all that digging
phone calls.
to put off being looked up.
But that's,
as-
just to
should
be
have
clear.
deleted them
Well,
in
the
the
real
moment
reason,
so that when
Mr.
they looked at
Murdaugh,
his phone,
is that
they didn't see anything
you as a
shady, and
lawyer
hoping
and
that they wouldn't even
prosecutor
look at him as a suspect.
are up at 9:02,
And
finally having your
hoping
phone in
that
your
they
hand,
wouldn't have pulled
moving
the
around and making all these phone calls to manufacture an alibi. Is that not true?
You thought, hey, they got to
So
see
that's
all my
just
phone
another
calls already.
circumstance and coincidence
Maybe they won't pull my
in this
record.
particular
you know?
case. Right around the time that you lied to law enforcement about maybe one of the most important facts in the case.
Especially with like his friendliness with the police. And stuff.
It is an absolute fact that I'm manufacturing an alibi, as you say.
How do you remember so much detail about everything else, but you don't remember what you were specifically doing to generate 283 steps while you're making all these phone calls in the same
Facts.
4-minute period?
I remember unequivocally, without any doubt, with as clear a mind as I could at any time, that I never manufactured any alibi in any way, shape, or form, because I did not and would not hurt my wife and my child.
So why
So
can't
I
you
know
remember
for a
what
fact
you were doing?
that I never, ever, ever an alibi.
Why don't you remember what you were doing when you were so busy for this 4-minute critical period?
I do
Other
remember
than
what I was doing.
Other than I was getting ready to go.
Well, that's because that's what I was doing.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. You missed calls to Maggie in that 4-minute period. You had just seen them a few minutes ago when you say you went down there and came right back. Why didn't you just take that quick little 1,100 yards away and stop by? See why they didn't answer the call. You're obviously wanting to get in touch with them. Why didn't you go down to the kennels that were so close by?
There was no reason to. I mean,
Making multiple missed calls, he's so close. And there's a driveway right there. Why do you not just go down there and say, hey, guys, I'm heading over there?
it wasn't important to do that. Me making those phone calls is simply me letting, I believe I called Maggie and I called Paul, but that's simply me just, I'm leaving for a minute, I'll be back. The fact that they don't answer is not unusual at all. Now, it is odd, it is unusual that they never call me back. But at that moment, the fact that there's a missed call when I know they're on the property,
I mean,
that doesn't even register
if it were me
at all.
and I was,
Normal to try
and if
to
there
call
was a
somebody who's
driveway
on
on the way
property
out,
and not
I
be
probably
able
would
to
have
get
drove
them.
by and been like,
And-
hey, I'm running to my
and
mom's real
as far as
quick.
not going down there, there was no sense of urgency. Maggie was with Paul. You know, she should be as safe.
Yeah, it was like a minute drive on like a 30-mile cart, Devil. So
Yeah, she should.
but here's my thing. Wouldn't you
Did
have
you
heard
talk
the
with Maggie
shotgun?
about
shots
going
at least?
to Alabama at the kennels?
No, I don't believe I did.
You would have
Did
been
you
like
talk with
outside
Maggie
at the
about
time
going
too.
to Alameda during supper?
I know that we had talked about it. I had talked, I don't believe we talked about it at supper, but we may have. I know that I
Can you
had talked about
suppress two shotgun
that I was
shots?
going to go over there.
And
I decided
Well,
that I wasn't going
I
to go
guess you
over
could
there.
with the rifle. With
But
So what was your
shot,
conversation
but
at supper?
there's
Tell me
no talk of a
specifically,
suppressor.
please.
I
About
can't,
going to Alameda.
I can't tell you that we specifically talked about it. The only thing that I can tell you we specifically talked about at supper was Paw Paw.
All right. And what was the conversation?
His high blood pressure.
Maggie was just concerned. Paul had been having, for a young person, Paul had been having high blood pressure. And he's very resistant to go to the doctor. And this has been going on for a little while, but lately Paul's feet had swollen. And for a 22-year-old to start having swollen feet concerned both of us. And it particularly concerned Maggie. And we talked about that.
Okay. Did y'all talk about Mr. Randolph at all?
I'm sure we did.
Do you remember that group text coming in about whether or not anybody was going to go see Mr. Randolph?
Do I remember it coming in?
Yeah.
I don't remember it coming in,
Because
but
you didn't read it till the next day. But
I've seen the data.
why didn't you? Did you ever text the group and say you were going to Alameda at all?
No,
Did you and Maggie ever specifically discuss her going along to Alameda?
I don't believe that we did. I know that there was a point in time where I said Maggie might go, but it's highly unusual for Maggie to go and
I
visit.
think maybe
just my
during the
mom.
day it would be norm, but at like
the
9
whole
o'clock at
situation,
night, I don't know.
It made Maggie sad, and she didn't like to go. So
You
I don't believe that we did, but I do acknowledge that at some point I said she might go for some reason.
You told law enforcement on multiple occasions that, first of all, Maggie was planning to stay.
I mean,
at
there's
Edisto.
trees definitely around the property, like
did say
around
that.
the outside of the
And you
property.
also said
But
that you
where
came
the
to find
kennel
out
is,
that she
it's,
came
like,
home of her own
open.
accord.
I can show
correct?
you.
You told that to law
Moselle.
enforcement.
Hold on.
Is that true?
She did come home of her own accord.
That she decided on her own to come home because she was worried about you. Isn't that what you said?
I did say that, and I the case.
All right. But since despite what you told law enforcement, we've since seen the text that you actually called her and asked her to come home on the night of June 7th.
No, sir, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, sir, that's absolutely not correct.
And you'd think the killers would at least wait till
Sister
Alex
Mary
was off the
testified
property.
just that
like-
fact of a we had with Maggie, but you're saying that's not true?
I don't believe that's what Marion said.
And your defense put in this exhibit 107, where Maggie texted Blanca and said, Alec wants me to come home.
I've seen that. I agree with that.
Is that, I've got the wrong input here. I'll just hold it up. You've seen this text?
I have seen that. Mr. Waters, the only dispute I have with what you're saying is you're saying that I called Maggie and wanted her to come home. I always wanted Maggie to come home, and I would have talked to Maggie about coming home before she ever left to go to Charleston and to Edisto. And
That's
I can
the
tell
main
you
property.
this.
And this is the kennels. I mean, so it's fairly open from there, but there is trees like along the outside of it over here. What happened to the sound?
This at the time, but I realize it now that Maggie was already undecided about, now I didn't know this, but Maggie was already undecided about staying at Edisto. I can promise you that, because Bubba and Grady were in their kennels, as y'all well know. That day, if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night at Edisto, at a minimum, Bubba would have been with her, and probably both dogs would have been with her. It was very unusual for her to spend the night anywhere without one of us or those dogs. So
you're
that
saying,
tells me when she left that morning, she was already seriously thinking about coming back.
so you're saying that you never called her and had a conversation that day asking her to come home specifically on the night of June 7th, 2021.
Maggie and I had a couple of phone conversations that day. What I'm telling you is that she left No, I don't believe we had a phone call about that. We may have discussed it during the phone call, but I didn't make a phone call to her to ask her to come home. I had already told her I wanted her to come
I
home.
felt pleased you
I
heard a car
always
pull up.
wanted her to come home. You
When-
heard Marion say that too, that I always wanted Maggie with me.
Talk about it with Marion, didn't you?
The fact that I wanted her to come home?
Correct.
Like, why
Well,
would you
sure.
have
I mean,
to
that's
lie and
what
say you
Marion
heard
said.
a car pull up?
So you're denying that you called Maggie and specifically asked her to come home that night.
I didn't make a phone call to Maggie to ask her to come home. That I asked Maggie to come home long before she ever left. And I probably asked her again each time I talked to her, but I didn't make the phone call specifically for that, as you're saying. And to be clear, I'm certain that if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night, Bubba would have been with her and probably Grady.
Why did you tell law enforcement, though, that you found out after the fact that Maggie wanted to come home because she was concerned about you? Why'd you phrase it that way if what you're saying to the jury now was accurate? Why would you phrase it that way?
Because I believe that to be the case.
But now you're saying you knew.
No, I'm saying I found out afterwards why she came home, Mr. Waters.
Okay.
And she came home because she was worried about me. So I'm going to be clear about that. I did not learn that until I think the day after she got killed.
But you're saying that you found out that after the fact, but you're telling this jury that you knew the things that you just said about her wanting to come home. And you were unaware of what Marion would say at that point either.
No, I'm saying at that time, I had not thought about Bubba and Grady. Since that time, I've thought about that. I'm certain of that. At the time, I thought Maggie was staying at Edisto. All right. She was going to Edisto to meet the people, to do the work. Maggie loved to stay at Edisto. There's no doubt about that. It would not be unusual at all for her to stay at Edisto. But just like every other time, I had already asked her, please come back, come back. Always wanted her to stay with me. Always. But I did not learn about, and Maggie even texted me, I'll see you in a few hours. But I did not know why she decided to come back until later, is what I'm saying. And I learned it from Blanca. Blanca actually showed me the text that she sent her talking about being worried about me.
You would agree with me that you sent a text to Maggie at 9:08:58 while in motion in the Suburban, as reflected by the data?
I do. Which was because I couldn't reach them by the telephone and I wanted them to know where I was.
Okay.
Which is what we do.
And you got to Alameda around 9:22?
I believe that's correct.
That's believable, but it's still kind of
I don't-
strange.
I don't have
He
any
went to his
reason
mom so late,
to dispute
knowing
that.
she'd be asleep. I don't know. And I hope he asked him about bribing Shelley, because he tried. He
Made some
told
more
her
phone calls
to
along
say he
the
was
way?
wearing a different shirt, I think, and offered to
I
pay
did
for
make
her
more
wedding.
phone calls along the way while I was riding.
Called Chris Wilson.
I did call Chris Wilson.
Had a short conversation with him. Is that right?
I did have a conversation for however long the record show,
About 131 seconds. That sound about right?
if that's what the record show, 2 minutes.
Called John Marvin for about 106 seconds, including connection time. Does that sound about right?
That does sound about right.
Arrived at 9:22. Does that sound about right?
It does.
And then at 9:24, you call, that's the landline at Alameda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you went inside. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Talking
right. I called the house phone to get Shelley to let me in.
And when you were asked by law enforcement how long you were at your mother's house, you said 45 minutes to an hour. Isn't that correct?
I think I said a couple of different things, but I think at one time I did say that. But routinely through these things, I kept saying, you know, when you get this data, you'll see exactly. When you look at my phone, you'll see exactly. When you do, you know, so, you know, this was always given with the thought that, okay, that there's OnStar out there, there's whatever.
But when you had a conversation with Miss Shelley after the fact, you actually asked her to say that you were there longer than 20 minutes.
You know, I heard Shelley's testimony. I believe Shelley to be a good person. I wasn't trying to influence Shelley on any particular length of time because at the beginning of this, I believed that data would show what data would show. And for me to tell her to say something when my OnStar is going to show something different just doesn't make any sense. You know, I can't answer that. What my recollection is that I told Shelley that law enforcement would be talking to her. We may have discussed how long I was there. At that point in time, if I thought I was there 45 minutes, I may have said I was here 45 minutes, but I can't tell you.
All right. And that's the same thing that Blanca testified to, that you talked to her about the clothes that you were wearing. It made her uncomfortable, correct?
Ask that question again.
It's similar to with Blanca that she testified about when you talked to her about the clothes that you were supposedly wearing. And it made her feel uncomfortable. Do you remember that testimony, sir?
What's similar to that?
Well, that you're talking to both of these individuals about their testimony in a manner that's inconsistent with what they know.
No, I don't think you're certain to understand this. On August the 11th, when I went to meet with David Owens, and in that, David Owens asked me about, he showed me that Snapchat and asked me about clothes that I had on. And shortly after that, the next time I was with Blanca, I asked Blanca about those clothes because David Owens had asked me about them and was made an issue about it. And so I checked with Blanca, but I specifically asked Blanca, and it was an issue to me. So I got Blanca and I said, I need you to sit down and talk with me about this. This is important. Do you remember my clothes when you came to Moselle that day? And but she testified to, she remembered that my pants were there. She wasn't sure if the shirt was there. At that time, I think she actually thought the shirt was there, but she was clear that she wasn't sure about that. No, she wasn't unsure, but she didn't remember. But assumed so. that was the conversation and why I was asking Blanca.
Well, again, you're very specific
Right.
about your memories of that conversation. Is that correct, Mr. Murdaugh?
You dang right. I'm consistent about that, because a very short time before that, David Owens is asking me questions, telling me I'm a suspect in the murder of my wife and my child, and asking me about my clothes. You dang right it was important.
It was important, right?
And you dang right I remember why I went to her and for what reason.
Because the only thing you're concerned about is yourself. You're not concerned about giving accurate information to law. Correct? What's the reason for that, Mr. Murdaugh? Why don't you want to give accurate information to law enforcement? Why do you want to talk to these women who both are employed by you or your family and try to influence what they are going to say?
I did want to give law enforcement accurate information. I told a lie about being down there, and I got myself wed to that. But I wanted to give them as much. I knew that I hadn't done this, and I wanted to give them as much accurate information. But the reason I went to Blanca is specifically because David Owens talking to me on August the 11th.
So then why did you offer to pay for her wedding?
You can see that you're underway about 9:42.
Did Blanca say blue shirt and the slacks on, or the white? I don't.
9:42 to 9:43.
I do.
I mean, not Blanca. Shelly. Or wait, was he talking about Shelly or Blanca? Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. He just sat down Blanca. So Blanca is the one at the house. That's not the mom's caretaker.
Turned on Moselle about 10:01.
All right, here we go. He's gonna have to bring up
Turned into Moselle.
of him checking the pulse and stuff. Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
It looks to me like I turned into Moselle at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the dot, sorry.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is what doesn't make sense to me either. How do you go down to the kennels at
At the house.
10:06 in some minutes, 10:06
Yes, sir.
minutes and some seconds? Get out of the car, check pulses, try and turn Paul
That's when you
over,
went
check
back to the
Maggie,
kennels
and
after
then
you came
call
back from Alameda,
911
correct?
at 10:06:59.
I went to the kennels after I went to the house. I went from Alameda to the house to the kennels.
And we got to the scene. You got out of the car, according to what you told law enforcement repeatedly, and went and checked the bodies, correct?
Yeah.
Before you called 911. Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You don't,
What?
you're saying you didn't say that to law enforcement?
I don't know what I said to law enforcement, Mr. Waters, but I can tell you this. I pulled up and I saw Mags and Paul. I jumped out of that car. I know that I went back to my car and I called 911 as quickly as I could. That point in time, when I got on the phone, then is when I went to them,
So you lost.
did the things that I did. So
But you were
what
very-
you're saying is not accurate.
You're saying that you didn't say very specifically to law enforcement that you went
He
to them
did say
prior to
very
calling 911.
specifically.
When?
Out of the car.
Oh my God.
You told law enforcement repeatedly that you went over and checked the bodies before you called 911.
Come on, man. You know exactly what you
I
did.
If I did say that, I don't believe that's accurate. Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Yes.
Correct.
No, sir, that's not It's not accurate.
Look at him playing
At
dumb.
least that's not what I remember.
That's
That's not
what
what
you
you remember
said
saying, or
many
that's not what
times.
you say now happens?
No, that's not what
Oh, come on.
that's not what I believe happened.
This is ridiculous.
Okay,
I
but
can't.
you don't deny
with
that's
this.
what you said.
Did I check Maggie 911?
He made it very clear. He got out. He
I don't
checked
believe
them.
that's what I
He
said.
checked their pulses. He tried to turn them over. He checked Paul's phone, then went back to his car and called 911.
Now, I know I checked them, but I don't believe before I called 911.
He knows exactly what the hell he said. Now
I
he
can pretty
knows,
well
now that he
remember
looked at all the timelines, he realized it was
vividly.
wrong.
I checked Paw. I was already on the phone with 911.
Looking at this data, to show the vehicle parking at 10:05 and 55 seconds,
Yes, sir.
and 10:05:57. Suburban arrives at the kennels. You agree with that?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Waters.
At 10:05:57, it shows the Suburban arriving at the kennels.
Okay.
It's all right. I know the jury knows what he
Okay.
said.
The 911 call was at 10:06:14,
Okay.
just about 20 seconds later. You agree with that?
I think that sounds right. Yes, sir. Sense. But that goes back to what I'm saying is I pulled up. I saw, and I know I jumped out of my car. But I believe that before I checked them, in fact, I'm almost certain, then I went back and that's when I went and got my phone and I called 911.
Okay.
And then after I called 911, there was a little while where there wasn't, I don't think there was anything going on. And I believe that is the time period on them.
I don't want to belabor this point, but what you're saying here today, now that we have this data, that's not exactly how you expressed it to law enforcement in your prior statements. Is that correct?
I totally disagree with that, Mr. Waters. Will you point to what you're talking about?
Sure.
Hey, it's me, Jay. I'm frustrated with this. With Creighton. Like, I feel like he's dropping the ball.
All right, sir. I do know. I rent the house without watch.
1257.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh. Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alex?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968.
Good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Collier County. I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I
but-
understand.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah, the Johnny Depp was a little
problem with it.
exciting. This one,
So,
not
Just
Not
start
as
the top, take your
exciting.
time.
the turning.
Like when I
The
came
turning
back
aren't as
here,
good as the
Mhm.
Johnny.
I mean, I pulled
Johnny
up
Depp
and I could
attorneys,
see
to
him,
be honest.
and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And well, there I could see it was.
So real quick, on the Netflix documentary, there's a guy, Eric Allen,
I could see his brain.
who had a drone who caught John Marvin removing guns from the home before authorities.
And I ran over to Maggie. Actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over, and I don't know. I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really
Yeah, I
quickly.
need a mega pint.
Then I
Right?
went to my wife.
I'm just in the prosecutors. I feel like
I could see.
Mhm.
done better. Look at this real quick, guys.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did.
Hold on, I'm
I
waiting
touched
for
them
it to
both.
load.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take both of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this guy on the morning of June 8th,
I
this
called
guy had a
911,
drone over
pretty much right away.
Almeida,
And
I believe. I think this
she
is
was very
Almeida.
good.
I'm not sure if
Um,
it's Moselle. Oh no, it's Moselle. All right. So here is John Marvin
talked to
removing
her.
guns from
I told
Moselle,
her
as
I was
shown
gonna
on the
get off the
Netflix
phone to
series.
call
Please
some
go to
family.
Eric Allen's YouTube channel,
I
and you will
did
see
that.
how many guns were removed by John
and,
Marvin and Buster.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother. And I
They
tried
had
to
the
call
drone
little
over the house
boy, a
before
real good
the
friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
Sorry, it's because the trial's so damn loud.
The person you didn't name, that was Rogan, the little boy right around the corner. Is that who you're talking about?
That's correct. But going back to your question,
All right, so I was saying
I mean,
this guy flew a drone
the way I
over
remember
Moselle on the morning of
what I
the
said
8th
right
before
there.
authorities came home, and
your
John Marvin and
question
Buster
about
were
did I
removing guns from the
do
house.
these things before I called 911. That's not what I said then, and that's not what I remember now.
So you're saying now that you went out, you checked, you came back, got your phone, and that's when you called 911?
Saying that now, Mr. Woods, I am saying that now, but to me, that's what I said then. I mean, I told her, I called 911 right away. There was no time to do the things that I'm talking about doing in the time between getting there and calling 911.
I
And you
wonder.
talked about calling Rogan, and you said that he lived right around the corner, correct?
I wonder if his
correct.
family knew that was him at the
But
kennels, or if
Rogan
they
wasn't
found
staying
out
there
in
at the
court.
time. That's the whole reason that Cash was at your kennel, right? You knew that.
Well, Rogan was staying in Beaufort a lot, but he was home a lot too. Rogan was on a daily basis.
About keeping his dog Cash at the kennels when he was staying with his girlfriend and working down in Beaufort?
Yes, he had asked me that. But I mean, that had been some time before. I didn't know. You're making a big deal about this, Mr. But that particular night, I didn't have a clue where Rogan was staying or not staying. I was trying to find somebody to come out there with me. I'd called Randy, I'd called John, and Rogan was the next best alternative.
Okay.
And Rogan is so close. I mean, Rogan, of all these kids that you've heard, Rogan, Gibson, I mean, Roro is like a Rogan. You prefer when I call him Rogan, is truly like a son to Maggie and I. And he was such a good friend of Buster, and he was such a good friend of Paul. And you've been through everything I have. You'll see that 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to this, I ran out of gas when Bus and Paw weren't home. And Rogan's the person that I called to bring me gas.
Nobody's disputing any that Rogan. Let me keep playing this.
Around Paul when you walked up.
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there was some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not. No, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? Good night.
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the
So
hospital.
real quick, I don't think Buster knew that he was that Paul. I mean, that Alex was at the kennels that night. I don't think he knew until. And there's video of like Buster's face as his dad admitted that he was at the kennels, right? And then at the end of the day, after Alex testified,
In the wake of this,
and everybody's getting up
you
to
didn't know
leave,
what
it's so sad
said law
actually.
enforcement about
Buster's
what you just
standing
said.
there waiting to be acknowledged by his dad. And his dad
You know,
never
a lot of what I
acknowledges
said to
him
law
and walks
enforcement,
out
but
without
there's a lot of
even.
things
I
in
think his
looking back
dad
at
was so
this video
ashamed
for
of
one,
himself
the 911 call for
after
one.
testifying that
Um,
he didn't even
I mean, there's a
acknowledge
lot of things that
Buster. And then you
didn't
see
remember.
Buster
Okay.
just give
But
him like
right
a
then and
sarcastic thumbs up when he had him. Here, I have the video. I'll show you
Not
I'm gonna
long
put it
into
over-
this interview,
over the trial real quick.
you made a conscious decision to lie
All right, so watch.
right there.
Play that again.
You said, I was at the house.
See Alex right here. Hey, New Zealand
And
Mysteries.
I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at
Like
the
he's
house.
waiting for his dad to turn
I
around
went
after
down.
testifying and say something to him or acknowledge him.
You want me to back it up some more?
Well,
And he gives
we
the
can keep
thumbs
listening.
up, like, yeah, okay, thanks. Watch. See it? Like a sarcastic thumbs up. That's sad.
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital.
All right.
My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the, I was at the house.
You want to hear it again?
No, sir, but I don't
So you
think,
made a conscious decision to lie right there, this early into an interview, sitting in the front seat, correct?
I don't believe so.
You didn't make a conscious decision to lie?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that was lying at that point,
Okay, tell me why not.
because Maggie had gone to the kennels and I was at the house.
Okay. So you think you were that was not a lie at that point?
I don't believe so at that point.
At what point did you decide to lie?
I'm not sure, but it was in that,
It was in this interview?
He lied a
I
lot.
believe that it was.
Okay, was this interview where you're sitting in the front seat, correct?
It is.
Custody, correct?
I'm not in custody.
They're giving you water, letting you chew tobacco, treating you politely, correct?
They were treating me very politely.
So what was it that?
He
that
lied
clicked? When did
again.
it- So you said in
He's
this
lying
interview that it clicked that
constantly.
I'm
why
a lie
lie all?
about the most
Like,
important
why
fact
lie
that I
about
know?
I'm not sure exactly when in it that I lied, decided to lie.
And look
but
at Buster
I
sitting in the very
believe it was
end
during this
seat, and he
interview.
can
I
stare his dad
I
down.
believe
on
all
the
those things
stand.
that I talked about,
I think
uh,
Buster
you know,
realized
those things that
yesterday
had gone
his
on,
dad
the
murdered
things that
his
people
mom.
have said to me about don't talk to anybody without a lawyer. Partners all told me that, or a lot of my partners told me
He's a
that.
dirty
My
dog.
dear friend
Like
Chief
DA.
Alexander said that. I overheard, I believe it was Sheriff Hill, I'm not positive. I overheard him tell, I believe Mark Ball or Gray Holmes, don't let him
That's
talk
the
to
first time
anybody
I've ever
without a
seen
lawyer.
Buster sit on the end
And
like that, staring him down like
What I
that.
believe is that based on my distrust of SLED in that interview, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe when he asked me, you know, about my relationship with my wife and my son, I believe that's when I decided to lie.
You
But I'm
also
not
left
positive.
out when you had the GSR too.
I
'cause
know,
that's
me
what you
too.
testified
New
to
Zealand
yesterday.
mysteries. So
That certainly
relieved they
contributed.
found that
And
baby.
your dope paranoia too. You said that as well, correct?
Well, those things
I mean,
are
like,
what
what's the
triggered
point of
the
him lying
paranoia
so much if he
that
didn't do
started
it? I think it's sad, and I
as my
really think that
addiction
Buster's
evolved.
having this realization that his dad's been
So-
lying to him, and he
You're
gave him the benefit of the doubt, and now
an
can
experienced
see his-
lawyer
his-
and you've been a prosecutor and you took the advice of your law partners
his
that
dad
you should have
couldn't
a
even
lawyer
acknowledge
there
him yesterday.
as you read that as, oh, I should lie.
No, that's not an accurate.
Because that's not what
statement.
that means, is it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, that's not an accurate statement, what you just said, Mr. Waters.
I just repeated what you just said. You said it was one of the factors was your law partners, and now you're blaming Sheriff Hill and Greg Alexander told you that you needed a lawyer before you talked to police, and you took that somehow as meaning I need to lie as a
No,
lawyer and a prosecutor?
no, that's what you said, Mr. Waters, but
How am I mischaracterizing it from your perspective, Mr. Murdaugh? Because I think isn't that what you just said? Excuse me.
no, sir, that's not what I said.
All right,
So,
well, say it again.
I believe those guys were trying to help me. I believe they cared about me. I believe they thought that I was in a condition such that
check this
I
out,
shouldn't have
y'all.
talked to anybody. Guys had to prop me up, help me get myself
Think
together
that's
just
the
to be able to go
blue-
talk
the
to David
blue
Owens. I mean, they
poncho?
were trying to help me, but before that, that was just one of the many things that I believe
Right?
led
Camilla
to
does.
that situation sitting in there where thoughts came to me. Them talking about not talking to anybody without a
There's
lawyer,
also a suitcase.
Brian
in the back.
Varnado,
That might be Buster's
checking my
suitcase.
hands.
I don't know, but that's the white.
the fact that I got a pocket full of pills in my pocket. I was the person who Maggie and Paul, my distrust for SLED, all of those factors combined
Look, Buster
and made
and
me decide to
John.
lie. I also
The
know him
morning of the
asking me
8th, before
about
they searched the
Maggie
property, getting rid of a
and
bunch
Paw
of
Paw
stuff. That might be Randy,
contributed
actually.
to that
Getting rid of more
paranoia.
guns.
All I'm saying is, I'm not disputing that I lied. I'm just saying at this point, you're saying I made a conscious decision to lie here, and I'm saying I don't think I made a conscious decision right there.
Okay, so it's later.
I believe so.
Had you already had your GSR done at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I had.
And you'd already talked to your law partners and and heard Sheriff Hill. Now you're blaming him and
I'm not-
blaming
no.
Chief Alexander now as well for your lies.
No, sir, Mr. Waters.
You just added yesterday. You just added that one.
Be given an opportunity to answer the question.
Objection.
Can finish your last answer.
All right. Mr. Waters, I'm not blaming anybody. I accept full responsibility for what I did. What I'm saying is what I believe contributed to me doing that and the reason why I did that. I think those folks were trying to help me. So I don't blame them.
Also, Buster perjured himself on the stand yesterday.
I think they were worried about me.
He
I
said,
don't dispute that, but you're saying you took that advice as I need to lie.
Nah, what you're doing is you're isolating one single
knew
thing.
Paul and his
Isolating
mom
anything. I
found
mentioned all the
Phil,
factors.
but
You've
he
added some
didn't
new
think
ones,
his
but I
dad
mentioned
had
all the
any
factors that you're
issues,
blaming.
but his
No.
dad saw
That's
him
not what you
going
did. What
through
you asked me is
withdrawal.
you said, I took my partners telling me not to talk to somebody without a lawyer as a reason to lie. And that's an inaccurate statement. That was one of the factors that went into a series,
decision to lie.
hang on, Mr. Waters, a series of events, all right, that caused me to have paranoid thinking, all right, and then I lied.
All right. But at some point it happened during this interview that you crossed over. You came into this interview intending to be fully disclosing to everything, and something happened in this interview that sent you over the edge. And you said, hey, let me lie about the last time I saw my wife and child alive, supposedly, according to me.
I certainly didn't go into that interview, I believe, intending to lie. Mr.
Okay.
Waters, I wasn't capable at that point in time of planning anything or thinking through anything.
So somehow during this interview, all of a sudden those senses came to you to plan and do that.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
When I got to thinking in that paranoid way that normally, as I said, I mean, I could take a deep breath and make it go away. I never had a situation where it lasted more than a matter of seconds. That night, after all those things had happened, it didn't go away in a matter of seconds. And I decided to lie.
Those are the
Yeah.
clothes that
He
you ultimately
planned
gave
all
to Dave
these
Owen. Is
lies
that right?
out way before this, but
Those are the clothes I gave to David Owen.
he was
At what point did
so
you
broken that
get-
he
be able
couldn't
to chuck
come
the
up
pills you
with
say are in your pocket?
coherent
When
thoughts,
did you do
but
that?
somehow he was
When I was in my
capable of
bedroom.
coming
You're
up
in the
with a
bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Where'd
lying
you put 'em?
story.
I'm not sure where I put them, but ultimately they would have gone in my suitcase.
So that's when you did it? You have a specific recollection of that?
No, I don't. I just know that
If we watch this whole video, you think you could, if we watch the whole thing, you think you can say, okay, that's the moment where my senses came to me and I decided I was going to tell this major lie?
I don't know that it happened like that, but I mean, I may be able to tell you some things that contributed to it. We watched the whole thing.
I just want to be clear though. At least on this one, at some point during this interview, when you were able to plan your lie about this event. And you made that decision. But
Obviously,
it wasn't what we just played. It wasn't yet. It was some point after that.
I don't think that's a lie right there. Is the reason why I don't think that it's occurred before this. Because
Actually saying,
what I'm
I
saying
don't
there,
think that's a lie. What do you mean you don't
I believe
think?
to be
Say that's
truthful.
not a lie.
And
I don't think
I know,
it's a
I know
lie.
this. I know for a fact that when
I don't know.
David
Kayla.
Owens
I
asked
don't
me
know.
about my relationship with my wife and my child, I know that that played a role in that. And I believe that and I may be wrong, but I believe that this was before that.
You ever heard the expression, not telling the whole truth is the same as telling the lie?
Sure I have.
Sorry, I've been unmuted. I
something
hope
you
it's not
understood?
echoing.
As a lawyer and a prosecutor?
Yes.
It doesn't sound very confident to say, well, I don't think that's a lie. Bro, you know it's a lie. Or say that's not a lie because this. Not, I don't think that's a lie. It just sounds like he knows it's a lie, and I don't know. Like, why feel the need to lie about all this stuff if you didn't kill your family?
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so we get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
Date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968.
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right. So what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I
but
understand.
yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
So you don't have any problem
Yeah.
with it.
So,
You hadn't decided to lie right there, correct?
I don't believe so.
They not believe so.
But you understood that he had to ask questions and you do what you need to do, correct?
That is what I told him.
Ron, this might be a good time for a break.
Clock. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing the jury, we'll break till 2:15. We'll go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case.
Break time. Oh, man. I mean, I could come back for the second half, but it's going to be like yesterday where I'm all tied up. I swear. It's like the second I get my kid home, walks in, and he's like, I need a towel, I need this, and I need that. But I can come back if I'll try and come back at 2. Well, let's see. He said 2:15, right? I could come back for a little bit actually, because if they start at 2:15, I'll have like almost a whole hour. Oh, is something happening before break? Hold on.
1 second for everybody. All right, 1 second before everybody moves. So I guess everyone can be seated.
What is going on?
Yes, sir.
Hold up. Hold up. Like an hour and 10 minutes. In an hour and 10 minutes, Kayla. So one 1:15 your time. Yeah, right. Don't let Uncle Ryan feed him Slurpees and Nerds. He's gonna go to his dad, so it's okay if he eats Slurpees and Nerds, so he can, drive him crazy. What is going on? Please tell me there's not another bomb threat or something. What is happening?
We'll be in recess to 1:15.
Oh, in that case, get him a Red Bull, right? All right. So I don't know what happened, but
I'm exhausted. Good afternoon.
all right. Well,
Welcome to Long Drive.
I
I'm
will
Michael
come
Bryan.
back
Good to have you along for
at
what I predicted the
2:15.
other
I'll
day was going to
finally be
happen. I
able to
wasn't sure it was
stay
going to
on till
unfold
like
quite as lengthy as it has so
3:15,
far. But yes, Alex Murdaugh
but
can
we can
stand
watch for
in
like
defense
an hour. We still have a
murderous
good hour.
wife.
So all right, I'll see y'all at 2:15. Then I'm gonna make a thing real quick and like preset it up already. Yeah. All right. I don't know what's going on, but I'll be back in an hour. Okay, guys. See you then in an hour. I'm gonna make a stream right now so you can set the reminder if you want. Like I'm gonna put it up right now. All right. Bye.